WGR Buffalo and WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Get in on the conversation. Call, tweet, or text Schopp and the Bulldog this afternoon, 3 to 7 p.m. on WGR Sports Radio 550. The radio home of the Buffalo Sabres. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
The Buffalo Sabres returned to practice today following yesterday's win over the Oilers. Jason Zucker and J.J. Peterka did not practice. Zucker due to a maintenance day, while Peterka is dealing with a lower body issue. His status for tomorrow night is unclear. However, the main headline from Tuesday's practice does appear to be from Paul Bissonnette of the Spit and Chicklets podcast, as he said he heard the Sabres captain, Rasmus Dahlin, spoke with Sabres general manager Kevin Adams and had indicated that if things don't change soon in Buffalo, Dahlin will want out. When asked about these comments following practice today, Dahlin squashed the rumors.
It bugs me, actually. I get pissed off by that. I haven't even mentioned the word leave, so yeah, that's just how it is.
Again, the Sabres are in action again tomorrow night. They'll be in Detroit, a 7:30 puck drop. If you did miss it late yesterday, the Bills did reportedly sign defensive lineman Michael Hoecht to a 3-year deal worth up to $24 million. We do have more on that signing up at our website, WGR550.com. And do stay tuned. It's coming up later today at 5. Sal Capaccio will join the show. And then more signings from today. We'll start with quarterback, as Daniel Jones does land in Indianapolis, a 1-year, $14 million deal. Jones's former team, the Vikings, had themselves a busy day. Guard Will Fries, 5 years, $88 million deal. And defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, 3 years, $60 million deal. Then we also had another trade as Philly and Houston. The Texans get safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson and a 2026 sixth, while Philly gets guard Kenyon Green and a 2026 fifth-round pick. And then, of course, the Giants, they make another splash on defense. They sign safety Javon Holland to a 3-year, $45.3 million deal. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
Hey, put a little. I never get this line out the first time. It's not even good. Hey, put a little bit more in there, cowboy.
And the Bulldog.
What's your degree in?
Kicking ass and taking names.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Hi there, exciting times. NFL free agency, draft speculation. Maybe you are one to be on the PFF site mock drafting. Brandon Beane really said to McAfee that Josh Allen does 150 mock drafts a day. Like, no way. The first guy you think of in your life that is like draft guy is not doing 150 mock drafts a day.
How long does one take? Because I got to tell you, I've never done one. I look at them, I just don't do them.
I mean, this is insane from Beane. I know he's just trying to say, he's just talking, right? He's just trying to say, like, Allen is really into the draft. He said that for years. But this number is ridiculous. Josh Allen, he should make a statement. He should be like Dahlin with the other thing. I mean, this pisses me off. I have better things. I'm getting married. I have better things to do with my time than do 150 mock drafts a day. 5 is kind of crazy. How long do they take? As long as you want. You can hit a button and the whole thing is done. You can go pick by pick. Somebody who's like diabolically into the draft is doing the second thing. Let's see. Tennessee picks Hunter. Do I want to make an offer to Cleveland for that number 2 pick? What do I give up? Like,
are you somewhere in between those two things? Or
I'm not doing any.
Okay, I thought you.
No, I did 1 or 2 on the air with you the one time. That's been it.
Okay.
I haven't done any. Like, whatever.
Ever?
Okay. I mean,
I didn't know.
Firstpick.com in those years.
Yeah. Right.
Almost all of that was on the air, but then I got into that and did a few off the air just to see like how many picks I could get, just like as a joke.
Yeah. But
he really said Josh Allen is 150. No. If you do one a day, that's weird. I mean, not weird. It'd be weird for Josh Allen to do a mock draft every day.
I agree.
Maybe it's the last thing you do before bed. He's engaged. He's not doing mock drafts.
In bed.
In bed.
Probably.
Anywhere.
Probably.
In the bathroom is the only chance.
Yeah.
But
if you really just hit a button and the whole thing's done, I mean.
But then what do you do after that? Hit another button?
Look at it and then hit it again. Yeah,
you write it down?
It's like, who did I get?
You could do that.
Where did the guy that I want go? What's pertinent? Guys I want, who do I get? Boom. Move on. I mean, what is that, 30 seconds? That's not that long. I'm not really balking at 150 being absurd. I mean, I'm just trying to, nail down how if it's actually functionally possible to do that.
What of anything that you would do 150 times a day other than breathing isn't crazy? Like, what would you do 150 times a day other than breathe that people wouldn't think you were crazy for doing at all?
Swing a golf club at a practice facility.
Okay, well, that's like one thing.
Right.
But sure, right.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, there probably are things. But no, 150, what is he even saying? What are you doing? Like, we got it. He likes the draft. Okay, 150 a day? No, if you did that, you would... Let's say we decided we love the draft. Let's say we did it for work and went ahead and ran 150 sims and wrote down who the Bills got. I kind of did that the Watkins year.
Right, the year you had your daughter pick the Bills player.
And she was 0 years old.
Right.
And the experiment was if you just run sims and sort of you aggregate the outcomes. This is it wasn't even sims. It was 10 or 20 expert mock drafts. What are they all predicting? And then my thing was the Bills, and this is really still how I feel, the Bills should do the thing that sort of comes out on top. That's how I draft. In the early rounds, that's how I draft. Just give me whoever the best guy is. Give me the consensus best guy. I don't know. That's it. Once in a while, you leave a guy out. Once in a while, you lean into someone else, but usually you're just all right, give me Brian Thomas. That's who I got. Fine. But that year was, let's look at a dozen or two expert predictions for the draft, break it all down, sort of give point tallies to everybody. Who's the guy that the Bills would get at, I think it was 9 that year. They traded up to 3 or 4?
4.
So whatever the number was, 9 or 10, who's the guy that would be there the most often that people liked the most?
Mike Evans?
It was Eric Ebron.
Oh, okay.
I think Evans was gone most of the time. Watkins was gone most of the time. Beckham was never gone.
Right, that's the one.
But Eric Ebron was the consensus choice for the Bills in that spot. So that was what my thesis was. Just do that. And they should have. Of course, they should have. Instead of trading 3 1s or whatever they did to get to Watkins and do that. They weren't ready to do that. They just got, anxious.
Yeah.
And did that. They could have picked Beckham. You could have done that. Had you been a little bit lower, you pick Beckham. But that's just sort of luck. You had to be lower to pick Lamar Jackson because he went 32. You weren't going to pick Lamar Jackson at 6, right? You were going to pick him, later. That's how that goes. Brady. Quintessentially Brady. So, no, Josh Allen is not doing 100. He should have to speak on this. 150 mock drafts a day? That is what he said, right? I hope that's what he said, or else we have to start over.
No, I think that's right. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it because I just dismissed it as immediate hyperbole and just never gave it a second thought, but I'm pretty sure that you're accurate.
Why even put a number? Why even do that? Why does Bean have the instinct to, defend Josh Allen's rabid interest in the NFL draft? Who cares? Okay, he likes it. That's enough. Okay. But, why would he have the instinct to be dramatically exaggerate that?
Do you want an earnest try at an answer?
Sure. I'd like to know.
I'll give you one. He thinks it makes Josh seem like a normal person. Even though in this case it's exaggerated to the extent that you'd be, I think, even abnormal in the obsessive-compulsive draft community for doing 150 of them a day, I think it's a way of making sure that we all know out here that Josh is just like us. He loves the draft. He loves football. He's not just on some island with a golf course that he built for himself with his Hollywood wife to be. He's a dude. He likes the draft. He's into it. That's all. I don't know how'd I do. It's just a guess. It makes him seem more relatable to the fans.
I think, in general, you're right. But of course, as you had to say during that number is completely insane to the point where a person who never did one in their life would seem like a more, quote, normal than somebody doing.
In this instance, I feel more relatable than Josh Allen right now. But, I have a lot more in common.
The show's young.
Probably, yeah.
The show is young.
That's right.
Why even go there? I don't know. There's a certain psychological thing there that I want to think more about. Like I would say about Allen as it pertains to these guys, like how just completely effusive he was about how much he loved Diggs the last couple of years always sounded to me like a red flag. Why are you trying so hard? Who are you trying to convince that you just love Stephon Diggs so much? I believe that he respected and liked him, but he went so far to tell you how much he loved him that it just became like, okay, stop for a minute. Like, what is this? And then, Diggs was moved. So maybe there wasn't.
My guess at that has always been, and I think I've said this maybe not as plainly as I'm about to say it right now, but it's overcompensation is what that sounds like to me.
Yes.
Right? Like Diggs is upset. Why is Diggs upset? We all want Diggs to be upset at someone other than Allen, but if he's actually upset with Allen, that's a problem for your team. And if the quarterback is aware of that, he's trying to fix it the best way he can. So publicly, I'm just going to tell you how much I love the guy.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, that's it.
That's why it was strange to me, because it was so much. People ask me about how I feel about you. You know what you will never hear me say?
I can't get enough of him.
Sit down.
I love this guy
Sit right
so
down
much.
and let me tell you what it's like. Let's go back to the first. No, it's like, yeah, he's great. We're friends. He's great. Like that's all you would do in sort of normal life is like just,
right.
On or off the air, I would say the same thing.
I get the same thing, and occasionally I'll get a raised eyebrow and a really, and that's when that's
when you punch the guy out.
I just walk away usually, or just like we're done talking about this. Like really.
Yeah, you know what? That's a thing too. Whatever it is. Anytime like somebody asks you about work and you tell them, and then they're like, I don't think I believe you. Like they sort of give you the impression that they don't believe you. Like, well, that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
Why'd you ask me?
I don't like that guy. How could you like him? I like you. I don't like him. I can't help you.
Why did you ask me if you weren't going to believe my answer?
I'm not able to really fill you in any further than this. And, you want to read between the lines there? Like we're all going to do with Dahlin and Paul Peace and that? I don't know. Maybe moving forward, you do what you want. I don't really care.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But first.
The game's on TNT tomorrow, by the way. So,
he works there.
Yes, he's a part of that pregame show panel. I'm dying. It's the first time I've ever been interested in seeing the TNT pregame show because what needs to happen now is a Rasmus Dahlin interview at the bench sometime between 6:30 and 7:30 or whenever the hell puck drop is. That's what needs to happen tomorrow. Hey, Ras, is Biz here?
In a real society, that would happen and be promoted. It's possible that they won't mention it.
Right. Yeah, right.
7:30. The thing about that, by the way, that I thought was weird right away was that he went to Adams with his complaint. Why would he go to Adams? Why would he go higher up? Like Adams is the GM. It's been 5 years. They've done what they've done. What are you going to put the pressure on him? How does he rate?
He probably can't get a meeting with the owner.
That could be right, but if that's right, that's something else.
Sure. But, the GM.
Adams is who's there.
GM's around, right. And I might even guess that the GM initiates that meeting. Like, you're my captain. Let's talk about what we're doing here and the way forward and all that sort of stuff. So it doesn't even have to be Dahlin seeking the meeting. It just would be, I think, natural. You're our leader. You're our best guy. Here's what I'm thinking. Sort of like Allen with the mock drafts a little bit. Like what?
Very similar.
You're there. What do we need to do? So
if you're like manager, you have power in the organization, and your manager one level up, you've told things to, and they don't do anything about them. You could go above them. That's what I would do. I would go above them. Right now, it's time for Reverse Power Rankings powered by Empire Electric. You've missed these. Your residential neighborhood electrician. Visit empireelectricians.com. And no, I was not asking. I was telling you. You've missed these. This is 2 weeks.
Is that right?
We didn't do them last week. Which means we'll do them today and tomorrow.
And the last time we did them at a new time. It was a very special episode of Reverse AFC Power Rankings.
It was Wednesday.
Co-starring Tom Hanks.
The 26th.
Sorry.
The Americas. Tom Hanks, you watching that?
Not yet.
We did not do one last week, so we might do one today and tomorrow. Especially with tomorrow being 7:30. There'll be extra time. But there is stuff.
Of course there is. Yes.
Which makes this kind of interesting, maybe. I say maybe. 16.
First thought I had today in exhaustive preparations for this very moment was I have no idea who to put at 16. And then I just went Tennessee.
Okay.
I don't feel like I've heard... It's not like I have a list here working of all the moves that are happening, but I just don't feel like Tennessee's really done anything that has gotten much attention.
No.
Zach, you do updates. You can tell me if that's
the only thing I have is they
part.
cut Harold Landry and Abdul Carter tweeted out the number one finger. That's all I've got for
okay. That could be nice.
It's not moving from 16 though.
I don't think so.
I think this is fair. I don't think it's like a no-brainer, but I think 16 is fair. I don't know what they're going to do. They should trade down or draft Ward. But they should not draft Carter at 1, especially, assuming there's interest in the first pick by another team, which I would assume that.
Yeah, if the Giants don't get Aaron Rodgers, then maybe they will want to really be active and move up to get Ward, and that's only a trade down to 3, right? If you're the Browns, I think you do that, get paid, and keep moving.
Or the Titans.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yep. I think the Giants should do both.
All these terrible teams. It's hard to keep track.
Rodgers, do that if you want, but it wouldn't get me off of Ward, I think, for them, necessarily. 15. Cleveland.
Have fun counting your money, Myles Garrett.
I mean, it would be fun. But yeah.
Counting them, yeah.
Not rings.
Maybe I'd want to do it 150 times a day.
Just
look at my bank account. Let me log back in and check. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's all still there. Nice.
14. Jets. What? I wasn't trying to stop you.
No, it's just like you really wanted to get that out. I don't know. Fine. Yeah, Jets. Right. Justin Fields. I mean, okay. I would rather try that than Aaron Rodgers, I suppose, if I'm them. I mean, I just did Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, one of which went, horribly awry, and the other was worse somehow.
Which one was worse?
The one where he actually played, yeah, was worse. So at least when he didn't play, well, he's still probably good. He'll be inspired to put on a show for New York. Whatever. He doesn't have it anymore. It's a brutal end. That's how it goes. So, fine, Justin Fields, but I'm not optimistic that's going to work. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback.
My guy, Pat Corraine, on ADP Chasing yesterday said, if you could just sort of blank slate it, the team that you'd put Rodgers on is the Jets. Talent, new coach, just go do that, bring a kid in, whatever. I thought that was kind of fun to ponder. But, of course, that's not going to happen. 13. Patriots.
Yeah. That cap money really didn't go very far once Higgins was franchise tagged. And then Slayton went back to the Giants, so that offense is still horrendous.
Mac Hollins. To the point.
All right.
12.
Jacksonville.
Raiders.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, I kind of like Pete Carroll and Geno Smith more than new kind of oddball guy and Trevor Lawrence right now.
You're stuck on that Liam Cohen being sort of different. You're stuck on that.
Yes, I am.
McDaniel was different.
How's that going?
It hasn't gone decently? I think it's gone
all right. I think it's probably spiraling to an end, is how it feels to me. I think last year was really bad because he couldn't get anything out of anyone else playing quarterback. Like I think if they don't win 11 games this year, he's toast.
11. All right, interesting. 11, by the way. Vegas, is this the best they've ever done?
Probably.
Geno Smith bought them 5 spots in the power rankings.
I'm all right with the Raiders here. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
I just needed to nudge Jacksonville in ahead of them.
I'll do the work on when the Raiders have last been as low as 11.
Below them, above them.
It's possible it's never happened?
It is very possible that that's never happened.
Maybe when they got Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, I don't know. 10. Pittsburgh.
Fine.
9.
Usually I push back on Pittsburgh, but I think this is going to be hilarious. Whatever is going to happen in Pittsburgh now, I think is going to be hilarious. Like, I'm here for all of it. Sneaky Joe tweeted a picture of Tomlin looking completely shell-shocked and befuddled, and like the caption on it was, "It's week 11, DK Metcalf's arms have fallen off in a weight room accident. George Pickens walked to the other team's sideline and put on their jersey, and Aaron Rodgers is missing and believed dead in Belize," or something. Perfect. Let's go Steelers. I mean, that is great.
Week 1 prime time. 9.
Indianapolis.
Okay. 8.
What is going to happen when Daniel Jones outplays Anthony Richardson in training camp and they plop him in as their starter?
So bad. This is the idea I liked for the Colts. The Colts were really hard to put a quarterback on for what they wanted. We had this conversation a few times. Like, you can't get somebody that's like, you can't get Darnold, because then that's it for Richardson. You want Richardson, your best case scenario is Richardson makes it. So you don't want to just cap him. But what, somebody's like terrible, that doesn't mean anything either. So you found it like this was like the guy above Flacco. This was kind of like the guy for them.
We are how long is the season away? 5 months, 6 months? We're that many months away from the Spider-Man meme with Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson. They're on the exact same career. Look at the skill. Look at the talent. Look at how he couldn't beat out this dying man. Too bad.
Maybe. 8.
Who are some other football teams?
Dolphins.
Sure.
7.
Houston.
6. Okay.
I'm gonna say Bengals.
Yep, that's right.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, okay. I think I've been waiting over here for 2 years for this to start coming apart, and I think we're getting there. Did you see Chase tweeting last night?
Did not.
Now this is the part where I need to remember what I saw.
I think it was basically like, know your worth.
Yeah. Know your worth and then add a tax or something to that effect.
Which is so good. That defense is also offensive. They're so bad if Hendrickson is gone, and they were already bad with him there.
5.
Chargers.
Denver. Brongers. Denver?
I've kind of liked some of what Denver's done here.
What has Denver done?
I don't know, some stuff. They've signed some guys.
Denver is going to draft a running back in the first round. Genty or Amarian Hampton. Denver is going to do that. They've been through so many running backs. Javonte Williams left.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think Denver's position is whatever, like nobody worked out. And if they get Genty, they'll do that, or Hampton, and it's one reason why I'm drafting tons of those two guys, is like Dallas, Denver, Vegas are all teams that if they draft one of those running backs, it's on. And, if it's Denver, that's probably a pretty good offense. And it's a guy who's going to play a lot. 4 has to be L.A.
Yeah.
Najee, drafting a lot of Najee Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Was very happy with that last night. 3, Bills.
I'm fine with that.
2, Baltimore.
Sure, fine.
1, Chiefs. All right. There it is. There it is, viewers. Got a good look at it, I bet. All right, today, Joe Reedy on the Chargers. We'll talk about Joshua Palmer. Would you like to talk about Joshua Palmer with us? Great. 803-0550 is the number. Sal will join us too. Michael Hoecht we're going with.
Right.
Before that is changed. We're going with Michael Hoecht, the new signing from the Rams. What role will he play? More where was he born confusion. Just like yesterday with Palmer. Born in Ohio. No. Pro Football Reference says born in Ohio. Wikipedia says born in Oakville, Ontario, then moved to
Ohio as a youngin'. Yeah.
I don't know how they do it over there at Reference. Oakville to Oakwood. Family very keen on the Oak town names.
Well, I love how we've got the market cornered, apparently, on Canadian-born football players.
Yeah, I wonder if that mattered to the Bills at all. Is this political? What do the Bills do? What are they doing here?
When they decide to play regular season games in Toronto, no, they would never do that.
That would never happen.
An NFL team would never do that.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. We would love to hear from you at 803-0550. This is WGR.
Never
Josh Palmer's going to fit somewhere in here.
I see him as a number 3 wide receiver. 1.4 yards per route run against man coverage is like low-end starter level stuff. He's 25 years old, so there's a chance he gets a little bit better.
Man, every once in a while on these big outside breaking routes or like 17-yard comebacks, he makes just incredible grabs.
Underdog, Hayden Winks and Josh Norris. That's not going to help me separate. In fact, there's now a player on the Sabres named Josh Norris. Talking about Joshua Palmer. Hayden Winks, for me, he's one of my favorites. The guy who said the thing about number 3 receiver. I think they're both good. I think Hayden really knows a lot. So that's kind of how I see it. You know, that's somebody I listen to on Palmer. And 24 hours and 10 minutes since it came down, more and more people seem to think the fit makes a lot of sense. But what is, like, the role? What is the ceiling on Palmer? Like, how important will he be?
Well, as it sits right now, pending further developments, there's more room there than there was. When we left the air yesterday, Mac Hollins was still someone that I think, the way the way I've talked about him, like, they'll probably bring him back and be something reasonable. And I don't know if he's earned a raise or whatever, and he gets 2 years and, decent money for Mac Hollins to go to New England. So unless they bring in another veteran to replace him, there's one fewer eater on the outside right now, at least as far as veterans go. We know the draft is coming up here, and I don't know if his departure changes any of that equation right now. And, of course, they can still sign someone to change that equation. But as it stands right now, there's even more snaps than I thought when Palmer signed here yesterday.
So what do you think? Or
agreed to sign, I guess I should say.
Yes. What do you think will happen next, or what do you think did happen? Because we both thought this player wasn't to replace Hollins, and that Hollins played a certain role that they wanted from him and that they got. Never going to be somebody that lights it up, but did score 5 touchdowns, big body, was reliable, and was a good blocker. So do you feel like they still think they need that? Did they want Hollins? I don't know. If anybody knows these answers, and I just didn't see it, but did they try to get him back?
I have not seen that they tried or what happened, but I could guess that they thought, all right, let's just do this again. And he got the security of a second year and a couple of extra $1 million and said, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and take my barefoot act to New England.
See, that's maybe right. Like what we ended up at with Palmer, and this is the conclusion I want to draw about the whole NFL right now, is that teams are not worried about the cost. $12 million a year for a guy that's caught more than 39 passes in his career one time. I mean, yikes. But yeah, well, we need this skill set, and that's how it is now. So let's do it. Okay. If that applied to Hollins, and they liked him, locker room, the role he played, the player he is, I think logically they would have done the same thing. Like, what is it going to take? But he didn't take whatever they might have offered him if they offered him anything. That didn't happen.
Right.
So I want to surmise that it wasn't as simple as that the Bills maybe were not as inclined to pursue him, or if they wanted to at all. I don't know.
Maybe they just felt like doing what New England did for him was not warranted.
Right.
They got a value, like Sal will always talk about. They feel like they have a handle on what they're willing to do, and they're not willing to go past it. So for 25-year-old Palmer, fine. We'll extend this, and this is a player that maybe they view as still ascending, and certainly is, to me, a better idea to be on the field. More. I think one of the best things that I think that came out of yesterday, whatever amount of a loss Hollins will be spiritually to that team and on the field and the role he played, special teams and the blocking and the run game and all that stuff, I'm optimistic about him not being the guy that's on the field more than any other receiver on the team. And again, I might be guilty of totally disregarding and overlooking the stuff that he did for them that helped them be what they were last year. And who knows? Maybe if they don't find a way to replace him, maybe at the trade deadline next year they go looking for a big-bodied outside receiver who can cover punts for them because they're missing Mac Hollins like they were missing Stephon Diggs and they went and got Amari Cooper at the trade deadline last year. But the opportunity to have better pass catchers on the field is there for them now. And without Hollins here. And so I was never going to be throwing myself in front of a moving train if Mac Hollins was going to be back on the team. But I'm not the least bit distressed that he's gone. I think they have an opportunity to get better.
I think, Palmer is interesting enough. Hollins leaves, and we're still in the middle of it. I mean, it's the second day, so we're maybe even on the early side, although a lot happens right away. There will maybe be new developments here. I think maybe Cook is the most interesting player right now and where that ends up. That Cook started at, I'm sort of doing you here, but $15 million, that's insane and that'll never happen, right? Just like, what? And then you had, free agency kind of started and we talked to people who were like, oh, it's not that crazy.
Barkley gets a contract extension.
Barkley, right. And I just wonder where that ends up. Like, could it really end up at that the Bills just
roll over for him?
No, the opposite.
Okay. I would say it's more likely they dig in than roll over, but that doesn't mean I think that's that likely. Of those two choices, right? Pay him what he wants because he's important and he scored 16 touchdowns for us last year. So, harmony and everything. Fine. We'll just, what do you want? Versus, you're under contract for another year. We've got the franchise tag here at our disposal, and it's a running back rich draft. Dare us. I know how that sounds, and I'm not suggesting that that's the path they should take, but of those two choices, the dig in, to me, is more realistic, I think. I just can't imagine them giving him whatever he wants.
I don't think – to me, that's not – I don't want to go that far, whatever he wants. But would you not predict that they make a deal for like 3 years or so, probably more than 2, and the money looks great for Cook? If he never tweeted $15 million, and the result is like a 3-year, $32 million contract or something like that. What's Palmer, 36? Up to 36?
Yeah. That's really probably 2 for 20 or something. Like, I could see that. That was already, I think Mike Giannitti with Spot Track, like the day that this all started happening, maybe after we had him on that day, had like, here's how you could put a 3-year deal together that will look like, finger quotes, look like $15 million a year, but is really actually this, and maybe that satisfies the player. Sure, that outcome could still come. I'm just...
it's not the likeliest outcome? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's more likely than either of the two extremes. I was just saying, of the two extremes, them stonewalling to me is more realistic than them just rolling on their bellies and saying, oh, just please pet us.
Oh, have you ever seen anybody do that?
Yes.
If you have a dog, you might have seen that
really sad.
Pretty much all the time. Margot's in her little bed there. And I come over and her eyes sort of wake, sort of blink. Okay, I'm awake. Right to her back. This is what I want. And you're going to do it. You're going to give me what I want. You're going to scratch my belly. That's what we do. That's the arrangement. Yep. You saw the video. I tweeted it. We're teaching her backgammon.
Right.
Teaching my dog backgammon.
You got to figure out a way for her to get that second dye out of the glass, out of the cup that she tips over.
That was a first effort. That was right there last night was a first-time effort. But
maybe a different shaped cup would help too, perhaps.
It was a wine glass.
Yeah.
A plastic wine glass. So you're right about that. I had the good felt official backgammon thrower. My wife had she was fine. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
But, you sit down to play a game, and here comes Margot. She just sits there and puts her paws up on the table because I want to be up there. I want in. I want to get into this action. So, she gets up on your lap, and that's not good enough. Now she wants to roll. She wants to roll some bones.
Mm-hmm. You better look out. This could lead to trouble.
It's a gateway.
She gets her own DK Horse account.
What
could be in real trouble.
How far away could that be? Margot has a DraftKings account.
She's going to be looking for that juice.
Yep. You like backgammon? Do you ever play backgammon?
I haven't played backgammon in years. We played when the boys were little. We used to play pretty regularly.
It's our number one at home now.
But I can't remember the last time my wife and I played, and the kids, we probably haven't played in more than 10 years.
It's great. It's a great game. Yeah, it is.
I think
it is a great game.
I want to say it. I find it. I think it's fine.
It's better. It's better than fine. It's backgammon versus James Cook. Which is better?
Which is closer to fine?
Who is the running back of backgammons? Najee, maybe you would say Najee. Najee Harris, the only running back in the league to have played 17 games a year for 4 years. He's played them all. Goes to the Chargers. And I wonder if he'll get like a bell cow role. They'll probably have someone else.
I would think they'll have a pass catching back.
Maybe Vidal, maybe a rookie. Gus Edwards is out. Dobbins won't be back.
What's a lot of carries for a running back these days? 250? He's to me with that coach and that coordinator, right? Roman is the coordinator. Yeah, he's getting the ball a billion times.
250. I've got at least 10 guys last year that had that many or more. Two more had exactly 250. So 12, 250 and up, including Harris.
All right. Well, I'd hammer the over there if I can get that action.
Which means you want to draft him. Sure. Around 8?
Sure.
A guy that's going to get 280 carries on a Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh team? Let's go. That is a steal. Speaking of the Chargers, our guest today at 4, Joe Reedy from the AP. What about Palmer? What about Najee Harris and LA's season? We'll get into some things there. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here at 803-0550. Sal today as well. This is WGR.
More of
From the source himself, it's a ruptured Achilles tendon for Tiger Woods.
Oh, geez.
As I began to ramp up my own training and practice at home, I felt a sharp pain in my left Achilles, which was deemed to be ruptured. Expect a full recovery. What's that? Is that for golf? It's a year, right?
Yeah, I would think, yeah.
We'll talk about, he'll be 50 in December. So we'll be talking about next year's Open or something.
Yeah.
That's just what you want when you're coming back from an Achilles tear, is to walk 8,000 yards at an open course with the thick rough.
Wind and the rain and the fescue and all the, yeah, right.
I don't know.
Boy, that's tough.
Yes, very tough.
Who takes his place on the, what's the name of his TGL team? I can't.
Oh, right. The fake golf team.
What is it? It's not T. Is it TGL or
Maybe.
NG? Whatever. The indoor golf. I have no idea. I have some idea. I just,
Tiger Golf League?
Yeah, it's not that though. I don't know what it is. Anyway, yeah, he's got a team.
Maybe Allen was at his last event.
Was Tiger playing in that?
I don't know.
I don't think he was. I don't think he was involved
forget
that day.
Forget
Anyway.
I said that. I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I watched it once, and he was playing.
Yeah. I've seen him
a month
play
ago or so.
Yeah. Well, that's tough. He's obviously had a disastrous run of injury and health-related stuff, so that's too bad. The idea of him having one last glorious moment somewhere, someday, sometime is getting more and more remote.
At least he did have it. The Masters win was really out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Whatever year that was. 5 years ago, maybe? Whatever year that was. That was pretty amazing. But, no, there might not be another one. 50 in December.
That was the first time I remember actually feeling like, because he was emotional, and as a competitor, like, I get it. Like, he was always so cold and calculated and just a beast to deal with, and it intimidated, and it worked for him. I'm not that way. I like someone who's a little more, just a little more open and not always like, I'm here to win.
Rory.
Sure.
You like Rory.
Mickelson. I like Mickelson, more contemporary with Woods, age similar enough. And so, but when Tiger won that last one and was just really emotional, I was like, all right, this is working for me.
He had his kids with him, that's the difference. Yep. Maybe for a lot of people in life, right. Is that. How about the Big Easy, Ernie Els? So you took that nickname and just twisted a little bit.
You started calling me the Big Uneasy, and
Big Uneasy.
I gotta get the gang that I play with regularly to use that more often.
Well, it's pejorative. You're better than that now.
I don't know how I score better. I am much more relaxed. We'll see. Like, that was the project last year, and I thought about it a lot during the winter. Like, I really did. And I liked how it went when season came around. I'd not really thought about it until just now. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been mentally preparing for that. But now because I still have time, I got to make sure, because I always really disliked. It doesn't make sense for someone of my ability to be frustrated when I hit bad shots. As much as I've improved, I'm not good, and I'm going to hit.
You are pretty good.
I'm going to hit bad shots.
You're pretty good.
So I want to work again this year. I'm glad we're having this conversation. I hope our audience doesn't mind too much. It's very indulgent, but I want to just keep control of my temper.
Ernie Els is and I'm not sure the show will ever have sounded older, but going to Oak Hill in maybe 2004 or 5, one of those years, when I think it was the PGA was there. Tiger played in it. And walking out onto the course, I think it was 8. That doesn't matter what hole it was, but just sort of like walking through the woods, a path out to one of the holes. It's a practice round. And I got to the fairway, and right in front of me was Ernie Els. And you can hit a few balls, right? So he's got a few balls down with his caddy. And that guy swung the golf club and hit the ball, and I was just like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Because he is big, but it's just like the most effortless, smooth-looking swing, the Big Easy.
Yeah.
And, not every pro gives you that same sensation. Like, there was something about him, his size and his golf swing that's like, this is incredible. I remember seeing him do that. I think it was 8 at Oak Hill East 20 years ago or whatever year that was. Pretty good. Joe Reedy will join us next. AP reporter out covering the LA Chargers. So what are the Bills getting in Josh Palmer? We'll talk about that and more next. Sal will join us later. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Call or text
The Buffalo Sabres returned to practice today following yesterday's win over Edmonton. Jason Zucker and J.J. Peterka did not practice, Zucker due to a maintenance day, while Peterka is dealing with a lower body issue. His status for tomorrow night is unclear. However, the main headline from Tuesday's practice does appear to come from Paul Bissonnette of the Spit and Chicklets podcast, as he said he heard Sabres captain Rasmus Dahlin spoke with Sabres general manager Kevin Adams and had indicated that if things don't change soon in Buffalo, Dahlin will want out. When asked about the comments following practice, Dahlin squashed the allegations.
That bugs me, actually. I get pissed off by that. I haven't even mentioned the word leave. So, yeah, that's just how it is.
Sabres, again, are in action tomorrow night on the road in Detroit. It'll be a 7:30 puck drop. Over to the Bills. If you did miss it yesterday, they did reportedly sign defensive lineman Michael Hoecht to a 3-year deal worth $24 million. We'll have more up at our website, WGR550.com. And then some of the moves made today. Quarterback Daniel Jones lands in Indianapolis, 1-year, $14 million deal. The Vikings had themselves a busy day. Guard Will Fries, 5 years, $88 million. And defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, 3 years, $60 million. The Giants signed safety Javon Holland to a 3-year, $45.3 million deal. And we did have a trade between Philadelphia and Houston as the Texans get safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson and a 2026 6th-round pick, while Philly gets guard Kenyon Green and a 2026 5th-round pick. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Tuesday here, March 11th. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog broadcasting here from the Just Called Jed studio.
Indeed.
Streaming on Twitch and YouTube. If you didn't know, you can watch our show that way. A lot of people are seemingly doing that.
And we welcome them.
And
even though it means you have to look at my stupid red face.
What's great is I know many are watching and listening on the radio and listening on the app all at the same time. Which is really, that's commitment.
Well, if you can sync that up.
That is, no, I don't think people are syncing it up. I think that's some great commitment, though, and we appreciate that. With us now on the West Her Hotline is Joe Reedy, sports writer in L.A. from the Associated Press. He's been around and wanted to talk to Joe today about Joshua Palmer, the Bills signing the wide receiver late of the Chargers.
Joe, no pressure. We're on the Twitch now, so the kids are watching. So just, watch it.
I don't think they can see you.
Hopefully you guys don't have a mugshot of mine that would scare children.
I don't think they can see you. If anybody comes at you that they could, let us know, because that shouldn't be possible. Right. We do not have a camera on you.
We're not that powerful, no.
We do not have a camera on you. Well, thank you, Joe. How's life in L.A.?
Not bad, but I'm moving back to Ohio in a couple days, so I'm packing suit coats at the moment, but happy to hear back east that things are warming up a bit.
Interesting. So are you leaving the Chargers beat?
Yeah, leaving the Chargers beat and replacing that by I will be doing the Browns and Bengals for AP Ohio.
Oh, congratulations on that. Well,
thank you.
Joshua Palmer, I guess, is also leaving the Chargers beat here, leaving for the Bills, and his signing reported yesterday. What are we getting here, Joe, just generally? He did not have, big numbers for L.A., one season better than the others. But, a fan's going to want to take that to maybe mean that he just didn't get a chance, or maybe it was the coaching transitions over the years. Is there sort of a reason why Palmer didn't ultimately do more for L.A. that would make you like this signing more for the Bills?
I think in years 2 or 3, he was solid. He did excel when both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were out of the lineup due to injuries in 2022 and 23. It was a reliable target for Justin Herbert, and those couple games where Easton Stick was a quarterback when Herbert got injured the last 4 or 5 games of 23. So I think he's a solid receiver. I think people were looking at him to make the next big step last year and maybe become a number 1 receiver because there was a lack of experience in that receiver room when both Keenan and Mike left. But it didn't quite end up that way. And I think the numbers were lower than expected, and he battled some injuries during the year too.
So the Chargers then bottle all that up. Someone who brought this, called into our show yesterday, Joe, asking, why wouldn't the Chargers want to hang on to a guy if he's ascending and there's still some potential in there? And I think that's a good question. We just went through an NHL trade deadline here, and I always like to consider, why does Ottawa want to trade me this player who's comparable to the player I'm trading them? And, change of scenery can work. Do you think the Chargers just sort of felt like, the prices are always going up? We went through this with Gabriel Davis, maybe pretty similarly here, expecting more, never really ascended, and now he's going to hit the open market, and I'm not paying that price.
Yeah, I think that is one of the reasons too. I think when you look at, because it's 3 years, $21 million for Palmer,
3 for 36.
Oh, 3 for 36. Yeah, a deal that's averaging $12 million. I don't. Yeah, I mean,
that would have been a non-starter for the Chargers, the way you look at it, right?
Yes, I mean, I am always pro player on second contracts because of what that can mean, not only to the player, but future generations of his family and everything. I mean, those second contracts are, for what it can do for families down the line and everything. Because I think first contracts, you buy the parents the house and maybe you get a few luxury items and stuff and maybe spend a little bit more because you have that money. But the second contract is more of the, for future generations, and that's when you truly get the financial advisor involved and stuff like that. So, but yeah, averaging $12 million, considering what the Chargers need in that receiver room. And let's put it this way: if you're Joe Ortiz in that front office, and I could sign Josh Palmer to a contract averaging $12 million over 3 years, or go out and get Najee Harris for 1 year, $9.5 million, when Jim Harbaugh and that offense likes to be balanced and physical and run the ball, I'm going with Najee Harris.
With our guest, Joe Reedy from the AP, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here on WGR. The best case I've read, Joe, for this move for the Bills is the particular skills that Palmer seems to have that are his strengths. Separation. The Bills didn't really have that from their receiver room last year, so he provides that. Maybe he won't catch more passes for them than he would catch for L.A., around 40 for the last couple of years, but they might still like it. Your assessment of sort of what the player is here, is he somebody you could see, big plays, touchdowns, that kind of role for a Josh Allen team, or maybe play a different role instead?
He could get the big receptions when he needs to, and I think he can also be that possession type receiver when you need a guy to get 3-4 catches in a possession, keep the chains moving, and stay on schedule and move the ball down the field. I think with quarterbacks, they want targets that they are very comfortable with and who they can work with, and they know they're going to be solid in there. And I think Josh Palmer can be that type of receiver for Josh Allen. I mean, the amount of time that Palmer took the initiative his rookie year and down the line with Justin Herbert after practices, as far as let's go out and, run routes and run extra routes and get catches and build more of a familiarity, I think can help. And I also think that a fresh start in Buffalo can help the receiver too. Maybe there was just a case last year where Josh felt pressure going into the last year of a rookie contract, and also seeing that receiver room where he was kind of expected to be the guy and the veteran in that room, and there might have been more pressure that he put on than then was good. I think he's also coming to a veteran receiver room in Buffalo where he doesn't have to be that guy. He can just be a guy, and I think we've seen receivers in the past kind of flourish after that.
Joe, how about the overall on the Chargers, where they're at? As you're packing to leave, I don't know. What's your review of how it went year one for Harbaugh? There's always a lot of hype there. There's a big personality there. But it seems like the build seems to be on track here.
Yeah, I think going into last year, I thought 10 wins and contending for the playoffs would be a good first step, and they won 11 and made the playoffs. So I think more slightly ahead than what people expected. I thought Joe Ortiz, as a first-year GM, knocked it out of the park with his draft and also some of the some of the August and September moves that they made. They added a Poona Ford, who just got a big contract elsewhere. Made a trade to get an Elijah Molden, who the Chargers just re-signed. So he was always not content with the bottom of the roster and churning through and finding guys who fit the philosophy and the system. That if you got a guy who's well-rounded and you have a circle as a scheme, fits well. I think that was maybe a problem of, especially maybe the Telesco Staley partnership, where they tried to put round pegs into a square. And I think the Jackson signing at cornerback was the greatest example. He was a guy who excelled at man coverage, and this was a team that played primarily zone. So I think Ortiz and Harbaugh are well aligned, and I think it's going to be things are continuing to be on the upswing. Now, Harbaugh made the Super Bowl in his second year with the Niners. I wouldn't go on a limb to predict the same thing here, but I think they are close to maybe making a run in the AFC West and closing the gap with Kansas City.
Joe, having said all that, how disappointing or even shocking was that playoff loss? I mean, I liked this Chargers team a lot last year. Just the Harbaugh stuff and Herbert, all the quarterback narrative talk can get tiresome, but I kind of wanted to think that Herbert was ready to, whatever you want to say, have a day in that game, just sort of show himself in the postseason, getting that chance. I mean, they couldn't protect him. I'm not saying he's entirely to blame for that game, but you had turnovers. Ends up being kind of a disastrous loss. I mean, better to just kind of shake it off and take it for what it is, first year with a new coach? Or did that loss maybe say something about the operation that isn't good?
I think this loss will have less of a detrimental effect on the franchise than blowing the big lead in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And because that was something where Brandon Staley and I think the team could not recover. I think a lot of the shortcomings that the Chargers had last season were laid bare in that game. They struggled against teams with balanced offenses. You saw that toward the end of the season with Tampa Bay, saw that again with Houston. Mobile quarterbacks they had trouble against, and Stroud was able to make some plays on the run. Defense that were heavy on blitzes. The offensive line kind of struggled in pass protection late in the year, and that happened. And I think they got too one-dimensional and off-script a little bit. And, when a quarterback throws more interceptions in one playoff game than during the entire regular season, that's not good. There were one or two tip passes, which I wouldn't put directly on the quarterback, but I also think that things really went sideways in that game when they tried to go for the jugular punch in the first half and did the bomb that was picked off. I think everybody in that stadium knew what play was coming, and it just after that things went sideways big time.
Mm-hmm. The pick six end of the third quarter You mean that?
No, the first half, they got a turnover in Texans territory. I think it was 7-6 at the time.
Okay, right before halftime, yeah.
Yeah, and Herbert threw the bomb intended for Johnson, and it was a little bit overthrown and got picked off. Instead of maybe milking the clock a little bit and trying to maybe get the touchdown or
just run the half out.
Field, or
field
trying
goal,
to get
right.
the field goal to go up at the half. It went sideways there, but Ladd McConkey had a heck of a game and had a heck of a rookie season. So that if there was one positive in that game, there was that.
Would like to hear you on him since you brought his name up. We spent all this time last year talking about the different receiver prospects. The Bills, as you'll know, trade down from Kansas City, which takes Worthy. Then they trade down again with Carolina, which takes Xavier Legette. The Bills end up Keon Coleman to start the second round. And New England, I think, even traded up there ahead of the Chargers for Polk, if I remember right. And then you have McConkey with L.A. If that's wrong, I apologize. But L.A. seems to have maybe gotten the right guy.
Yeah, and L.A., the Chargers trade up a couple spots, I think, with the Raiders to end up getting McConkey. So very, very versatile, more of a slot receiver, but with the speed and the ability to stretch things, he's very good, especially as a speedy receiver, and also he's a guy who is not afraid to catch things down the middle of the field, which I love Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but they were more outside boundary type receivers. This guy is not afraid to get dirty down the middle of the field and take a hit and keep going. So, you know, it should have been in running for Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. I think he got a couple votes, but you know, good start to his career, and now I think they still got to go out and hopefully find a number one receiver. I think they've been linked to Amari Cooper. So we'll see how that goes after missing out on Adams and
Metcalf.
And being in the market for Metcalf. So if they can upgrade that pass game, I think it'll be good, especially after re-signing Mack and adding Najee Harris yesterday.
Right. I almost had it, but it was the Chargers trading up with New England for McConkey, and the Patriots. I had it in my mind that the Patriots could have taken him, and they could have just by using that pick. But they moved down 3 spots, and that's where the Chargers pounced.
So back to Ohio, are you going to just stay? Are you going to live right in between Cleveland and Cincinnati, Joe? Like, how's that? And two teams kind of at the opposite end of the spectrums here. The Browns are trying to dig out of the Deshaun Watson mess. I guess keeping Myles Garrett is a good first step in that. And the Bengals are trying to, I think, probably keep the band together as best they can.
Yeah, they're trying to keep the band together, which, you know, that Meatloaf once sang 2 out of 3 ain't bad as far as keeping people, and hopefully they can keep 2 out of 3. I mean, I know people criticize the Bengals a lot, but the one thing about them is they probably historically are low on dead cap money, so they know how to spend the money. Maybe not spend a lot of money at times, but they know how to spend the money. And, you know, adding Al Golden to kind of get that defense back on the right track is a good move because, you know, you're not going to win many 40-38 shootouts when that's the theme every week. So if that defense can get tighter, it should be a better year. And, you know, the Browns, they're always good for a surprise or two. I mean, trading for Kenny Pickett yesterday, I don't think anybody had that on their draft card. And, you know, there's some rumors about them maybe getting Kirk Cousins and try to get a trade that way, which if they could, after the whole Myles Garrett situation got resolved, it puts them in an excellent situation at 2 where, you know, you could go Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter instead of swinging for the fences and going Sanders or a quarterback in that situation. So it'll definitely be interesting for both Ohio teams, and with AFC East facing AFC North next year, looks like I'll possibly get to see the Bills twice next season.
Right, the Bengals are here and the Bills go to Cleveland. Nice timing, avoiding most of the Watson mess, Joe. By the way, if I can offer that to you, like
I had the Carson Palmer and then the T.O. and Chad Ocho Johnson stuff in Cincinnati. So I think I've done my quote on messes for a while, but also with the Browns, there seems to be a couple different messes every year. So there'll surely be one coming down the pike one way or another.
Well, congrats, Joe, on the move, and thanks for your time today.
No problem. Talk to you guys soon.
All right, Joe Reedy from the AP, leaving L.A. for Ohio. Here's my kind of hang up with the Browns. I might have showed this yesterday when we were talking about Garrett. Like you and most people, my friend Pat Corain was like this, just sort of, this might not be you, but for the most part, absolutely closed to the possibility of the Browns getting good. It's just whether it's the Watson stink, the cap hit that he represents, the history of it all. They signed Garrett. And on the podcast, ADP chasing, and you represented this somewhat yesterday. I think maybe Davis Maddock on the pod said, well, you'll never play a meaningful football game in your life.
That's very much how I feel right now.
And I just can never get there. Aren't the Bills an example of a team where it felt like that? And maybe they didn't have the same particular obstacles, but they were in Brady's division all those years and never were good. And, guys signed with the Bills. Mario Williams signed with the Bills, and he gets ridiculed for it. Why would you ever go there? Myles Garrett says he wants to leave, and he signs. I guess you don't want to win. It's so easy. Mm-hmm. But it does change in football. Is it impossible to think, or even, so remote a possibility that they draft Cam Ward, he's good, and then they're good if that happens?
I would not want to say that that's completely remote. No, that could. I mean, it happened to Washington last year.
Right.
I mean,
another franchise.
That's a stinky mess. But it was new ownership, and that was breathing new life into the whole thing already. So the fresh air was already in, the windows were already open, they were airing it out. And Daniels gets there, and he's a transformative personality and talent, and that works. I mean, that's a real tight needle to thread with Cam Ward, but it could happen. He could be that, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's that level of prospect. What the hell do I know? I liked Daniels a lot, and I like Ward okay. I haven't seen him at all be the athlete and the player, throwing or running, that Daniels has been was in college. But still, yes, it could happen. Will it? Is this the year to get that guy? I mean, maybe. It's not. I wouldn't bet on it. That's all. I think it's very likely they spin wheels for at least the first 2 years of that contract that they just gave Garrett. And where are you going to be then? He's a couple of years older, and maybe he's unhappy again. I don't know. It just did not make sense to me for them. They could get good. A better way for them to get good would have been to get 3 premium assets for Myles Garrett and use that to throw darts at. If it's not Cam Ward this year, then who is it next year? Just give me all the stuff I want, and I'll be armed and dangerous to move up and get a guy that we target, like the Bills eventually targeted Josh Allen.
Let's talk some more about that with the top of the draft in mind. 803-0550 for your calls. Maybe you heard our guest just now on Joshua Palmer and want to weigh in. What are people getting wrong about this Bills move? Sal Capaccio at 5, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
We know you Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. Now, Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines.
Sabres return to practice today following their win over Edmonton yesterday. Jason Zucker and J.J. Peterka did not practice. Zucker due to a maintenance day, while Peterka is dealing with a lower body issue. His status for tomorrow night is unclear. For more on practice, our own Paul Hamilton has a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. And the Sabres' next game is tomorrow night in Detroit with puck drop at 7:30. To the Bills. Running back Darrington Evans' agency, Priority Sports, did announce today that the running back has signed with the Bills. The terms, though, of the deal have not yet been reported. And if you missed it yesterday, defensive lineman Michael Hoecht, 3-year deal worth $24 million. Do stay tuned. We'll get more on all of the things the Bills have been able to do the last 2 days when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5 p.m. And then Daniel Jones, he does find a new team. It is Indianapolis, a 1-year deal, $14 million. And the Giants, they have signed safety Javon Holland to a 3-year, $45.3 million deal. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
He's got a lot of good football in front of him. He's still relatively young, but we love the skills. And when we compare people to Keenan Allen, that was a pretty big statement for us. And just to kind of tie in with the Bills, I mean, we saw Keenan Allen's skills very similar to the way Andre Reed was when Andre Reed was with the Bills. Similar size, similar route running ability, similar strength and play. Now, Josh hasn't quite gotten to that Andre Reed, Keenan Allen area yet, but he has a lot of those similar skills.
Tom Telesco on One Bills Live today. Was he also maybe born in Canada and we don't know that not Hamburg? On some technicality. No, St. Francis and then GM of the Chargers, let go, then GM of the Raiders last year, but also let go by the Raiders. So what is next for Tom Telesco? Maybe he was asked and I didn't hear. On Joshua Palmer, he would know maybe as well as anybody traits and what his value is. He'll be joining the Bills wide receiver room. Mac Hollins is leaving. And we talked about this yesterday with Palmer signing, that we kind of both thought Hollins' status wouldn't be affected. Never knew whether the Bills wanted him or whether he wanted them. But Sal too, we all kind of talked like if he wants to play here, he can. And, he's not going to. He's going to New England.
Right.
And I'll be curious to see what kind of role he has there. I mean, I doubt it'll be much different, but they do not have receivers right now. So
right. They got the two guys they drafted last year, neither of whom, to varying degrees, really came through at all. Polk, who you mentioned while we were talking with our Chargers guest last segment, and then Javon Baker, who we talked a lot about, but he certainly was a name that came up as like a later round, maybe value guy. And there's all kinds of like off the field personality stuff there that seems. That if I'd known he had, and I don't know if he had a reputation coming in or if he just went kind of sideways once he got to New England as a rookie last year, but I would have just removed him from any speculation involving the Bills because they seem to not take chances on guys that have any kind of a reputation question. So if Baker had that going in, I don't know if he did, but he was kind of messy there last year. So, yeah, I mean, they invested last year a couple of picks and haven't gotten paid off yet. So, yeah, I get the sense here, it's overreaction time for all 32 fan bases to some extent or another. And New England is like, we need receivers, and you signed Mac Hollins. Which, I get. I think last year we might have been the same way when the Bills signed Mac Hollins. Like, we need receivers. You're signing Mac Hollins. What are we doing here? Last year I was wrong in my assumption of what he would mean to the Bills or be for the Bills. I thought he was a Jake Kumaro replacement, which meant barely playing as a receiver, but gets a uniform on game days because he's valuable doing all the dirty work on special teams. I didn't realize that he'd play as much as he played as a receiver and was, seemingly somewhat important. I mean, he was on the field a lot for an offense that scored a ton of points.
So the Patriots, we got there in that last conversation, traded down 3 spots in the second round. The Bills picked Coleman at 33, and the Patriots are up. and they move down 3 spots with the Chargers, who move up. The Chargers draft McConkey. The Patriots get that pick 37 and a 4th for pick 34 and a 5th. So they move up around on Saturday to move down 3 spots early on Friday. The Chargers take McConkey, 2 picks go by, and the Patriots take Jalen Polk out of Washington, one of the receivers on this board when it had names on it. And then in the 4th round, maybe with the pick
Where they got Baker?
They picked Baker.
Yeah.
With one of those. They had 2 4ths at least, and they picked Baker with one of them. McConkey caught 82 passes for L.A. He had an 87-yard touchdown catch in the playoffs, too. He had a huge playoff game, but 82 regular season catches. Polk and Baker combined for 13 for New England. Polk had 12, and Baker had 1. And think about what kind of team that was.
Right, they were not loaded at receiver last year either.
Or playing for anything.
Right. And you had a new quarterback that you would, I think the plan would have been, I drafted a couple of receivers, they're going to be on the field, and they'll develop chemistry with our rookie quarterback, and we'll be ready to maybe, move somewhat, positively in year 2. But yeah, neither of those guys got off the ground at all.
Talking about the Browns before, the Jets are easy here. The Patriots are easy enough here. It feels like there are maybe 6 teams. We had the power rankings earlier. Vegas, Tennessee, maybe that's the list. Cleveland, Jets, Patriots. 5 that people just give no hope to, right? Just generally, like, maybe beyond next year. But how shocking would it be if any of those teams were in the playoffs?
I don't.
You like New England?
I like New England. I have a love-hate thing with Vrabel and McDaniels, both. Like I don't. Both of them have annoyed me over the years in different ways. But I think they're both perfect for the jobs they now have. And I think the quarterback looks really good, and that's not a guy I was excited about last year at this time, May. I didn't think it was really there. I thought it was kind of being forced, maybe too toolsy, and like I'm not ready to trust it. But I think that looks good. So I'm not here to tell you it doesn't matter what they do at receiver. I mean, it would be nice if they did what the Bills eventually got around to doing for Allen after, I guess, you're going into his second year with Brown and Beasley and all that. Because year 1 was kind of more like what the Patriots look like right now. So it's year 2 for May. You'd like them to be surrounding him with more at the skills, and I don't think that's really happened yet. So we'll see. Maybe they address that in the draft. Maybe they get the best receiver in the draft or something. McMillan from Arizona or something. I don't know if he even rates as the best receiver in the draft.
Sounds like
by consensus after the combine.
Is that what you would do?
I'd be awfully tempted to. Yeah.
There's a tackle right now whose name escapes me that is like, I think the consensus pick there.
Is it the LSU short-armed guy? That guy? Which guy?
Shorty Armstein. Yes, Shorty Armstein. That's who it is.
Shorty Armstein. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for him.
That's the guy. That's the one.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a fit there pick-wise, for them to go receiver, but I think
I wouldn't do it.
I just wouldn't. I think the Patriots, of the teams that we just have mentioned here, at the top of the reverse AFC power rankings. Did I get that right for a change?
Yes.
I think New England is the team that I would like the idea of betting on the most, to be better, to elevate to 7, 8, 10 win even territory.
Armand Membo.
Okay, that's not
Missouri.
the guy I was thinking of.
Missouri. Let me throw this at you. This could be a bet board bet. I'm not sure which side I want now, though.
Good.
I'm going to name 8 teams. Half the AFC. Jets, Patriots, Browns, Raiders. Houston, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Tennessee. The 4 mostly consensus. I mean, Tennessee's in this too, but like 4 teams that I think most people would bet heavily will miss the playoffs next year. Browns with who? A rookie or
Kenny
even
Pickett.
maybe Cousins, Kenny Pickett. Jets with Fields. Patriots with May, but like a really down bad roster. Vegas, maybe that's interesting. But so those 4 teams in the AFC South, half the conference. Over under 1.5 playoff teams.
So really what I need is, because somebody from the AFC South is going to make it, right?
They still have their rules.
Somebody's going to win the division, so there's your one. It's really just, is one of these other 7 going to make it?
Right. It's a bet that none of them will. I think if I were to bet it, I'd want to make the line 2 and then have it be a push at 2.
Yeah.
But would you go as far as to say you would bet under 1.5 teams from that group? I mean, think about that. Think about how good your odds are if you're right. If you're the Bills, say, or anybody that's not mentioned. How good your odds are of making the playoffs if you could write off basically half the conference. I mean, the AFC South will always get the winner will get in.
Right.
But if you could write off the rest of the conference like that, or the rest of that half of the conference like that, you're looking at 6 playoff spots, because Houston or whoever gets one, 6 playoff spots for 8 teams. How could you lose? I mean, only
You have to,
2 of those teams will miss.
You have to really follow it up.
And that is what happened this year. The only 2 that missed from the group that I'm not mentioning here are Miami and Cincinnati, who were both, kind of good. They're both kind of close. Cincinnati was a game away.
I think the randomness that still exists in the NFL, despite what these teams look like now, I would be on the side of over 1.5.
I think I would too.
I just think something, right? Whether it's injury in the AFC West that opens the door for the Raiders, or something with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll now, or whatever it is. That I would expect somebody to surprise, because somebody usually does. So yeah, I think I would want to be on that side of that. Again, I don't know. I don't love any of these teams. There's a reason why they're included in this bunch right now, even New England. But to me, it wouldn't be shocking. The Browns getting it right with like a Kirk Cousins or something would kind of blow my mind, because I think he's pretty shot and was never really that good to begin with. So, there. But I already said it. The Raiders, to me, could be live. New England could be live. It's, might depend a bit on what Miami looks like. Are they back to being a team that's contending for the division with the Bills, or at least at worst a wild card? But if they're not, if that comes apart on them, then the door's open for New England, both in the games against Miami and in the division, and maybe for the wild card. Yeah, because the Jets, to me, forget it. That is not happening. I'd say the Raiders and New England would be the reason I would bet on the over side of that. Those 2 teams specifically.
It is just too random, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it. I mean, the last 2 years in the AFC, the division winners were all the same. They also were the same 4 teams to get to the second round, right? It was Houston, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City. Right. Then this year it was Houston, Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore in the second round. Same 4 teams. That's probably not too many times ever has that happened. Yeah, even the teams that we're not taking as seriously here, you can see it. You can see it with the Jets. They won. The Bears won some games with Fields. So did the Steelers. They have Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, good players on defense, right. Gardner. It's not like it would be impossible. The league is usually too close. But it's all right. It's tough to make an argument that they will make it in all these cases.
Yeah. You can see it with the Jets. You always see it with the Jets.
That's right.
I don't see the Jets are not a reason I would take the over on that bet.
Okay. Put a poll up. 803-0550. Sal Capaccio at 5 here on WGR.
Guts.
Back, Sal Capaccio coming up at the top of the hour. Another signing by the Bills last night, I guess. Michael Hoecht from the Rams blocked 3 kicks for the Rams last year.
That's helpful.
Yeah, we'd like to. I'd like to see more block kicks by the Bills.
Yeah,
love a block kick.
Block some kicks.
I love a block kick.
Run them all the way back too while you're at it.
They happened to lose a game to the Rams this year on a blocked punt. Kind of the difference in the game, even though it was early. This guy was not involved in either the blocking or the returning.
I don't have to hold that against him. He is a very. I'm eager to talk to Sal about this guy because he's just one of these guys. Like, wasn't a name that was on my radar really. Some people who follow the Bills and analyze the Bills like this idea a lot, and they filled up my timeline last night with cut-ups and videos and. Just seeing him lined up all over the place, it was a little bit confusing at first because the initial tweet that I saw about his agreeing to sign with the Bills referred to him as a defensive tackle. And so I start looking at high, different clips and stuff, and I'm looking in the middle of the field for a guy. And I realized, oh, it's this guy out here on the edge. There he is in the middle. He just seems like a guy that gets moved around a lot. And I'm curious about how the Bills will plan to deploy him. So I think a very interesting, sneaky, maybe good signing for them.
Maybe. Leonard Floyd, who was here for a year, was released by San Francisco. I had it in my notes here to ask Sal about him. But he's reportedly already agreed to terms with Atlanta.
Oh, all right. So much for that.
Cross it off. Write it down, cross it off. Things happen fast this time of year. March 11th in football. Why wouldn't they happen fast in football on March 11th?
Yeah.
6 months from the opener.
I liked that idea fine enough when I saw he was being released by San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Good. Useful player, I would say. Kind of tailed off as the year went on with the Bills, but we'll always have that he was at the scene of the crime when Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles. So I'll always have a place for Leonard Floyd.
10 sacks?
I think that was the number, 8.5 last year with San Francisco.
10.5 for Buffalo. But he's going to the Falcons. All right, Sal next. We'll talk about Josh Palmer, Michael Hoecht, and a lot of other things that are going on in the league. That's after the update here on WGR.
The Buffalo Sabres returned to practice today following yesterday's win over the Oilers. Jason Zucker and J.J. Peterka did not practice. Zucker, a maintenance day, but Peterka, he's dealing with a lower body issue, and his status for tomorrow night is unclear. For more on practice, our own Paul Hamilton does have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. And Sabres are next in action tomorrow night in Detroit for a 7:30 puck drop. To the Bills, Darrington Evans, Agency Priority Sports, announced the running back had signed with the Bills, though the terms of the deal have not yet been reported. We'll get more on that as Sal Capaccio joins the show next, but also on a signing that was made yesterday. Defensive lineman Michael Hoecht, 3-year deal worth up to $24 million. Do stay tuned for that. And some other moves from today. Former Bills edge rusher Leonard Floyd, he's signing with Atlanta on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Floyd spent last year with San Francisco. Daniel Jones finds his newest team. It is Indianapolis on a 1-year, $14 million deal. And the Vikings, they had themselves a very busy day. Guard Will Fries, 5 years, $88 million. And defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, 3 years, $60 million. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Just remembered, you're texting with Paul. I got a absolute gem of a text from Paul.
Oh, yeah?
Last night. Yeah. He's like, how dare you bring up Garrett Cole to me and not Sal? Paul was on the show, and it was announced Garrett Cole was having Tommy John surgery, and Paul was going into this thing about, how not to take rumors seriously and stuff. And I had no ill will toward him. I just happened to see it. I'm like, by the way, Paul, and I didn't mention it to Sal, and Paul did not appreciate that. Equal time. 2 Yankee fan beat reporters. No, none of this is true. I didn't mention it to Sal. I did mention it to Paul, but none of this is true.
He didn't text you angrily?
No.
Oh, I'm so disappointed now. Sal, I feel like I've been misled.
Sorry, Sal.
You can't trust anything anymore.
Sorry about the news.
Hey, no, it's okay. Listen, we'll get to that. I just want to tell you guys, speaking of Paul, it's funny you say that. I'm going to sound like him right now because I'm at hockey practice, and there's going to be hockey in the background. And you're here.
Love it.
As long as
it's going to feel like I'm, yeah, right. So not down at the arena, and I just saw your son, Bulldog. He just came off the ice, and I said, I'm going out with your dad here in a couple of minutes. So it's pretty cool, actually. I'm at hockey practice right now. I'm going to sound like we're doing a Sabres segment. I am very bummed about Garrett Cole. Of course I am. And Louis Heel is out. He's the reigning AL Rookie of the Year for a few months as well. This is going south very quickly for my New York Yankees, I'll say that.
As long as there's a live band in a couple of minutes here, then it will definitely be a Paul segment. We talked to Paul from the arena, and you can barely hear him sometimes. Okay. Well, we've got another signing to talk about here since we spoke yesterday. Michael Hoecht from the Rams. I guess that's how you say it. What do you know about him, Sal, and what do you think of this idea?
I would say, first of all, very surprised from a standpoint of not a guy I would have targeted and thought the Bills would go after, considering I thought that they were really looking, if you're really going to target someone early on in free agency, maybe a guy that you get later on and you go, okay, he's a guy. But, this is not a player that has, I think, the traits that I thought they would be looking for immediately, which are really big, physical, point of attack, getting bigger and stronger, things we talked about. However, let's say we all know the Bills love versatility, right? They love versatility. Like, this guy is the most versatile guy you could find. He is really like Lorenzo Alexander when he went from offensive line to defensive line, to defensive end, to linebacker. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's transformed his body. He's weighed 300 pounds. He's down to like 260-something. He's played inside. He's played outside. He's played on the edge. He's even lined up, and there's a clip of him covering DK Metcalf off the line.
and defending the pass, too. I think he got credit for a pass defense on that rep. Yeah.
For sure. So from that standpoint, I think it's awesome to have guys like that. It's kind of a departure, even though the Bills do love versatility a lot. This is not like one of those versatile guys where, he can play inside and outside and kick in or out on different downs. This is the kind of guy that you have to have a plan for, I think, going into every week. Like, where are you going to put him? Are you putting him this week He's going to line up and play edge. He's going to line up and play defensive tackle. Like, I think you have to have a plan. He doesn't have a true position. And I think a lot of times with guys like that, you can get caught up in all the things he does, and you don't focus in on something he's going to do really well that week. So I think that's the challenge for the Bills. But otherwise, phenomenal athlete who I think they will want to use. The other thing I think they'll love about him is, of course, he's available. He's played 17 games each of the last 4 years. He has not missed a game in the NFL. He's very available. And, oh, by the way, he blocked 3 kicks last year on special teams.
Yeah, I wonder, Sal, how much. I love how you're talking here about this being a departure. I'm not somebody who wants the Bills to like tear their defense down to the studs or anything. They've had a lot of success with McDermott and different coordinators over the years, but still, it's McDermott's show. But there have been consistent problems, especially in the playoffs, and some of the additions they've made to the coaching staff might lead you to think they're going to be more versatile from a schematic standpoint, a little more man maybe, or who knows, more blitzing, whatever. And like, I wonder how much of a fingerprint, how many fingerprints any of the new guys on the staff might have on the signing of a player like this.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. And they are seemingly transforming in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if they're going to go much more man-to-man, how that looks, but I do think they're trying to find their way to being able to match up a little bit differently. We talk about this on the offensive side a lot, guys, which is, okay, they have all these different parts and pieces, and they can match up on a weekly basis, and they can flex Dalton Kincaid out or use them in line. And I do think that's the case here. I don't think there's necessarily connections, not that you're saying that, between what the Bills – I don't think there's connections between what the Bills are trying to what they have on their coaching staff, I should say, to him, other than, Aaron Cromer, his son is with the Rams, but he's an offensive coach, to be quite honest with you. But I do think that you could probably look at what they've done this offseason and then say, okay, they're probably, trying to do something a little bit different and have the ability at least to do something different on a weekly basis.
Michael Hoecht of the Rams. Did you know much or anything about this player before last night? I didn't.
No, I really didn't. Had to do a little bit more research on him. He's a name that I had heard other people talk about as a free agent and just kind of like being out there, but really didn't know much about him, and then learned he's also from Canada. He's from Ontario, and he actually tweeted out last night, Bills Mafia, I'm coming home. So obviously he's excited to come back to Western New York, but not a player I really knew much about going into and up until last night when they signed him.
So do we know if there's any corners available who were born in Canada?
Oh, there has to be one. There has to be a Canadian corner.
That's where I need to go next. Yeah, well, I'm curious to see what they do with this player. It's a pretty, it's a rather modest contract. I know, easy for me to say, but not a crazy rich deal there. So maybe befitting of a player who's been used the way he's been used so far in his career, because you do get kind of stuck. I feel like I can remember talking to Lorenzo Alexander about this. Once you are thought of as versatile, right? We talked about this with maybe Ike Butker at some point too on the offensive line.
Look at you go.
He can do it all, or maybe it was Ryan Bates. Whichever.
Bates.
Right? Thank you,
exactly
Ryan Bates.
I was thinking about Ryan
Thank
Bates.
you. Yeah,
100%.
he can play center, he can play guard, he can play tackle. Therefore, we don't want him to play any of those permanently because we need him as a backup. Well, geez, I'm shackled to being a backup. I'm never going to get the big deal. I'm never going to make the money I'd like to make doing this. So we'll see what the future holds for this guy. But I'm intrigued by the athlete this guy appears to be. Yeah,
for sure, and I am too. And now the challenges with the coaching staff. I always thought that about a guy like Peppers, who came out of Michigan when he came out. I didn't really know where he would fit and what, there's a difference between being versatile and having a position and being able to play another position, right? That's versatility. There's also the versatility of, well, where does he have a true position? Where do you put him? I think that's the challenge. Now, look, I will say the Rams did a good job. 2 years ago, he had 6 sacks with the Rams, right? I mean, that's a nice number. He had 6 sacks, and he did start, and he played quite a bit. Like I said, he's played a lot. He plays special teams. He's willing to do anything the team asks him to do, and obviously Bills like players like that. As far as the contract is concerned, let's see what the exact money is. They did we did see that today. I think it did come out. They added a couple of void years to the deal, so it's a 3-year deal, I think it is, but it's actually spread over 5 years for the money, so the cap hit is pretty minimal in year one.
With Sal Capaccio from hockey practice on the Western Hotline. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. I mentioned before I had a note here to ask you about Leonard Floyd, who was released by San Francisco, but he reportedly is signing with Atlanta.
Didn't even make the show.
We couldn't even make it to 5, let alone 6:30. So I guess this is really also a question from yesterday, but like what's left here? Interior defensive line still, corner, depth in the secondary. Their work is not done.
No, not by a long shot. I mean, really only 3 players I think that they've signed or reportedly signed here, other than their own, obviously. And that is wide receiver Josh Palmer, the defensive player, like we said, Michael Hoecht, and Darrington Evans, who came in a little bit earlier today. The word is that he's going to be re-signing with the Bills, a guy that they've had on their preseason roster over the last couple of years. I'm very, very curious what they do at both defensive line and at cornerback, too. Defensive line, I still think they need more help there. I mean, the only guys they have under contract, really, that are regular players on the team were Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, and Dwayne Carter. I mean, they need more there. They do have Zion Logue and Branson Dean, but those aren't guys you're necessarily going to count on. So they have to add to that, and I always thought that they would really concentrate on that. They could certainly do it in the draft, but, man, now you're talking pick number 30. You're talking guys that might take a little while to come along. So where's your real game changer coming? And I'm not sure that that's necessarily out there, and the same can be said for edge. And then cornerback 2, guys, I mean, it's a mystery because right now your starting cornerback 2 is Jamarcus Ingram. And we've talked about this. As much as I like Jamarcus Ingram, I can't see the Bills going into next year and thinking he's the starter opposite Christian Benford. I mean, it's not going to be Kyer Elam. I think we're all pretty sure about that. Yes, Rasul Douglas is still out there, and I would say that it's possible he could come back, but they do have to do some work there for sure.
Yeah, is there anyone? I know I saw last night, and I don't know, I guess maybe it turned out to be like a hoax or one of these just jerky accounts that's just messing around, that the Bills were into it on Asante Samuel Jr., who's a name that has, certainly been somewhat prominent anyway, famous cornerback name in the league anyways, late of the Chargers, but, that trail of breadcrumbs turned to dust, but he still hasn't signed, so I don't know, there are guys out there. And, Douglas, I guess break glass in case of emergency is how I would view Douglas. Like, I like the idea of them going into the offseason here, Sal, getting better, trying to improve from Douglas off of last year. But if they ended up there at the right price, I mean, I guess I could, swallow hard and live with it.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting because I don't think the team, wants to pay top dollar or, going cornerback market rate, I guess, for a guy who's at 31 years old this year, didn't have quite the season last year. He had 0 picks, right? But at the same time, he knows your system. He's a guy that has performed well for you. He's very, very close with Christian Benford. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that should be a reason why you bring him back, but it could be a factor in, how they go about because we know what they feel about their locker room and things like that. The thing about Asante Samuel last night, I saw that too, and I will say that years past, Sean McDermott, I think, said that he had coached Asante Samuel Sr. when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles years ago. And I remember having that conversation with him a few years ago when Asante came out in the draft, and I made that connection. But he's not the type of player the Bills normally have at corner. The Bills really like their corners to be tacklers and a little bit more physical. But I will go back to what we just said a little while ago. Are they having a change of thought of what they want in their cornerbacks, guys? Are they maybe saying, we'll sacrifice a little of that if we can get a little bit better at man-to-man? I just wonder. I think nothing is off the table for me with all this right now.
I don't want to blow past Darrington Evans, Sal. Not that I'm super excited about his being signed, but more so wondering what it could mean, if anything, to Ty Johnson, who really had some moments last year for the Bills.
Yeah, I wonder, too. I will remind everybody that they were both on the team last year during camp with James Cook and with Frank Gore Jr., so they were able to get all those guys together. So I don't think it has to mean anything negative for Ty Johnson not being on the Bills, I would say. But I do wonder, is this a prelude to them saying, we don't think we're getting Ty Johnson back, let's secure somebody. So we know they have a very similar skill set. They can both return kicks, and I guess punts in a pinch. They can both return kicks. They're both third down backs. They catch the ball out of the backfield. Darrington Evans was awesome that preseason a couple of years ago, and the Bills didn't keep him. Goes to Chicago and Miami, comes back last year. He goes on IR. The Bills ultimately released him, partly because they had Ty Johnson. They had no room on the roster.
Yeah, do they think their route on Johnson would be the question. I mean, Evans never got in a game for the Bills, a regular season or a playoff game, and really just has not been on the field for at all. not literally, but for a few years here in terms of his, being able to return kicks. I'm sure you're right. He has one kickoff return 4 years ago, and that's the most recent, opportunity he's had to do it. So I don't know. What do you think Johnson's value is? Is this going to be something where if he signs with New England like Hollins did, that there might be some disappointment?
Sure. I mean, I think, a fan base becomes attached to players who, do well for your club. And this is an underdog story, a lot like Mac Hollins was. He comes in unheralded and people aren't expecting much. He becomes a big part of what you do. He leads the team in touchdown catches, and he has this personality that really resonates. And Ty Johnson was very important for the Bills last year. He's on the field, for right or for wrong. He's on the field at the end of that Kansas City game. He was the one that really stood up big in the game at Detroit and had all those catches out of the backfield. He's a great third down back. I mean, I do think that there would be some disappointment from the fan base. He's not irreplaceable, though, right? I'd love the Bills to bring Ty Johnson back, but it seems like every year there are guys out there, and, you bring them in, and you coach them up, and they do what you're supposed to do, and you can replace guys like that. So I'd love to see him back. I don't know what his market is. I wouldn't be surprised if a team did see Ty Johnson and go, look, we will give you a bigger role. A little bit more money, we'll give you a bigger role. And he says, okay, yeah, I mean, I'll do that. But, we'll see where it winds up.
How surprised / disappointed would you guess the Bills are about Hollins going to New England? Do you think that he was someone they wanted to bring back? Because I feel like we all talked about that way, like that. Well, sure, the door should be open for him if it's, the money makes sense.
Yeah, I do. But I would say this, guys. I mean, let's go to the trail of breadcrumbs here of the timing. They signed Josh Palmer, or at least we hear they agree to terms. It's just like, a few hours later, we learn about Mac Hollins going to New England. So I think there's something to be said about that, which is, okay, Mac Hollins probably, talking with the Bills. They're talking about, okay, we'd love to have you back, but, we got to do some other things. Let's see. And then he sees, okay, you just signed Josh Palmer? I'm 5th on the depth chart now. Now, granted, he probably was that last year when he got signed,
right.
But he probably understands, like, who am I getting snaps from? You got Keon going into his second year. You just re-signed Khalil. You got Curtis Samuel in his second year on an $8 million per year contract. You just signed Josh Palmer. Like, I'm just in the same role. And then you have the New England Patriots who say, well, guess what? You can come over here. We'll give you a second year on the deal. We'll give you a little bit more money. I don't think the Bills ever wanted to play in the $5 million range for Mac Hollins. So good for him. I would say the other really big factor here that a lot of people probably, have discounted or haven't noticed, Mac Hollins by far had his best season when Josh McDaniels was with him for the Raiders. Josh McDaniels is now the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. He had over 600 yards and 50 catches with Josh McDaniels. I don't doubt for 1 second that Josh McDaniels said, hey, look, come play with me again, and we're going to be productive here.
What's your latest feeling about James Cook, Sal, with all the money that's been flying around? The Barkley contract is a while ago now, but it feels like it's all going in the right direction for him, not knowing how the Bills feel.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, the market is going in the right direction, no doubt about it. And I think that, James Cook, every time that we see a running back get paid, anytime someone talks about it, he's the first to tell you about that. Look where the market is going. I still don't feel the Bills are going to move much off what they feel. Now, you might say, okay, I see. Okay, we can kind of adjust a little bit here or there. But the Bills are going to have their number. They're going to stick to their number. They have a certain value they put on him. Now, if they wind up saying, all right, we can meet you a little bit better, it probably doesn't look like necessarily the average per year, or it could, I guess, but it could look in a lot of different ways. But I just don't think the Bills are interested. I guess I'd say it this way. I just don't think the Bills are interested in paying James Cook top 3, 4, 5, even running back money, to be honest with you. That's a big number for a team that just treats that position, and I think rightfully so, as a position that you don't have to invest those kinds of assets and that kind of money in. When you have Josh Allen, you're paying him $330 million for the next 6 years to throw the football.
Yeah, we're all going to have, whenever that contract comes down, if it gets to that number, 15, which is the number that Cook was initially talking about, that's where this all started, the Joe Shane clip from Hard Knocks off season last year is going to be fresh in everybody's mind, because the quote was, I'm not paying a quarterback $40 million a year to hand the ball off to a $15 million running back, right? And that's that's, and that was with Daniel Jones as the $40 million quarterback. In this case, it's the reigning MVP. So, I hear that. I think the question in part becomes, and I wonder how much the Bills will have to take this into account, is how much it means to the team, to the players, to see Cook get somewhat rewarded for what he did last year.
I think it would mean a lot, but they also know it's obviously a business. They've seen this happen before. Guys leave, guys get released. But yeah, sure, you want to see your guys get paid, and I think they understand. And I think more than anything, as much as that would matter for sure. You see, they're not going to pay James Cook. I think also though there's a lot of trust built up in Brandon Beane and how he's built this roster and what he's done. And I think players, as much as they would say, you know what, it really stinks, and I wish he would have got paid, they'd probably also say, but I trust Brandon Beane and what he's doing here. And, that's been very fruitful for us of how he's gone about, building this roster. So it's a tricky situation. I don't think the Bills will get to where he wants to go, but I also know that the Bills don't want to have a situation on their hands that they have to deal with the drama of what could come along with going into the summer and going into, the preseason and camp. And Brandon Beane said, he said at the Combine, he said, just because we're not on the same page now doesn't mean we won't be in 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, he said, but you get the point. It means, hey, we have time here. Let's see this play out and see where it goes.
Sal, the kids have been waiting long enough. Get back out there and get back to coaching. They're just standing there doing nothing.
Coach. I just watch. I am not a hockey coach. You do not want to see me on skates. That's not. I've tried. I actually did play and skate. I can skate a little bit, but when I put a hockey stick in my hand with a puck, it looks a lot different. I'll say that. These kids are phenomenal. As you know, guys, you watch these kids. You both have kids that played at a young age. You watch some of these kids, and they're just unbelievable skaters.
Yeah, I mean, they're now shooting pucks at each other. They need some, they need adult on the ice right now. Even if you don't want to skate. Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
That's our Sal Capaccio live from the campus of Nichols in the ice rink, I believe. He said he saw my kid there, and I'm pretty sure that means that that's where they are. Anyway, Sal's appearances, regardless of what ice rink he's in or wherever, brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
One thing that's interesting about Cook, which would probably help to explain why he went right on line with how he wants his money. Except for touchdowns, he kind of had a better year 2 years ago. More yards on more carries, more catches by like a third, more touchdown catches. But he had 2 rushing touchdowns, and last year he had 16. I don't know. Like he broke a few last year, and he dropped a few the year before, and maybe 1 or 2 last year. But his numbers are, except for rushing touchdowns, kind of better 2 years ago than last. So, yeah, try to cash in.
The rushing touchdowns are the biggest reason I would, I want to be careful how I word this, support the Bills at least slow playing this. Because you are absolutely buying, despite what you just said, the touchdowns matter so much. And I would expect them to matter a lot in the contract negotiations. And you can't possibly be buying higher than what you would be doing with James Cook right this moment.
Especially if you make it about touchdown rushes.
I mean, it's just a ridiculous number, considering how few he had the year before, like you just said. So I'm not eager to, rush into like, oh yeah, we got to do this now. Talk to me after you have the same year again, but maybe you only have 7 or 8, because that could happen. I mean, what would his over-under number be for rushing touchdowns next year?
Oh, good question.
7.5, maybe? I mean,
probably at the lowest, because he did do this.
Yep.
But, right, I mean, that's an easy one. Touchdown regression is an easy one. It was true of Knox. I don't know if the Bills paid Knox right after. Did he have an 8-touchdown year? Wasn't it? And I remember thinking, like, yeah, that's very shaky. Like, you do not want to bet on, you don't want to speak about touchdowns with confidence. And that is what happened with Knox. I mean, he hasn't had a year close to that since then. So it really is incredible, Cook's year. I mentioned to a caller, I think it was yesterday, about him, his fantasy ranking, Cook. Just to sort of also illustrate the point that the rest of the world is not so hot for him. It was a great, in terms of fantasy and in real football, it was a huge value. Cook was a huge value last year, but he's the 14th running back drafted. And if you just think about it casually, why would a guy who's young on this offense, coming off 18 touchdowns total, plus more in the playoffs, not be like one of the top running backs picked? It's because of this. It's because that touchdown regression is a real thing, and it doesn't always happen. It didn't happen with Allen. It's never happened with Allen. Allen, the first year, ran for 7 or 8 touchdowns, and here, take my money. That'll never happen again. And it has happened every year.
Right. That feels bankable.
That is bankable. This is not. We agree. 803-0550. Cook, Palmer, Michael Hoecht, Sam Martin to Carolina, by the way. That's being reported. Leonard Floyd was free for a minute, went to Atlanta. A lot of stuff still happening in the NFL. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
550. Now, Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines.
The Buffalo Sabres returned to practice today following snapping their 5-game losing streak yesterday in a win versus Edmonton. Jason Zucker and J.J. Peterka, though, did not practice. Zucker due to maintenance, while Peterka is dealing with a lower body issue. His status for tomorrow is unclear. For more on practice, our own Paul Hamilton does have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. For the Sabres, they are back in action tomorrow night in Detroit, a 7:30 puck drop. Over to the NFL, the Bills reportedly have made another signing as Darrington Evans' agency, Priority Sports, did announce the running back had signed with the Bills, though the terms of the deal have not yet been reported. And then some other signings from today. In the last 15 minutes, safety Justin Reed is signing with New Orleans on a 3-year, $31.5 million deal with $22.5 million of that guaranteed. Daniel Jones is heading to Indianapolis, 1-year, $14 million deal. And Leonard Floyd is signing with Atlanta on a 1-year, $10 million deal. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
For a guy who can stretch the field, who can separate, and give them that horizontal and vertical threat that Brandon Beane, their general manager, said was the missing piece for their offense. And now they feel like they are set with this offense. And more of the future going forward is how do we fix this defense and maybe get a little bit more speed, a little bit more pass rush, so when we get back in that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs or whoever, that it won't be all on Josh to get it done.
Cameron Wolfe, NFL Network. Now they feel that they are set on offense. He said that like he knows that. You think he knows that? Now they feel, or do you feel that they're set on offense?
I don't. I don't. But I think there is an opportunity for them to be better at receiver. I think Hollins was just a bit of an anchor for them. Like, I know that he had a good year, but him having a good
31 catches.
Good for Mac Hollins is not good for my offense. Like, you know, if Mac Hollins is good for me, I'm not good enough. You know, like it's a little bit of a dilemma, I think, to talk about. 5 touchdowns leading you in receptions, receiving touchdowns. No, that should not be my leader. It all is kind of a complicated puzzle to piece together because they were the overall was I don't quibble with the results. I mean, they scored their points, set a franchise record for points, second highest scoring team in the league, with Mac Hollins playing all the time and catching 5 touchdowns and that being the most anyone on the team had. That still doesn't really compute. Right? I think if you set down some of those numbers to me and asked me, was this a good team? Yeah, probably, especially a good, like a record-setting for the franchise offensive team. No, but yet they were good. So I don't know. All set. All set would mean a big bet on a guy the organization has been vocally critical of publicly in Coleman. Like, if Coleman had a rookie year where he caught 70 passes and 5 touchdowns or something to tie Mac Hollins for the team lead in touchdown receptions, like, okay, I see it. This guy's coming. I get it. He did not have that year and really fell off after being injured to such an extent that the coach and the GM have sort of taken turns telling you they need more. And that feels like message sending, which makes you worried that the message needs to be delivered publicly in the first place. Like, is there some switch that needed to be flipped that never got flipped? So that would be a big bet to me. And that's why, like yesterday when Palmer signed, excuse me, when he signed, I thought, okay, well, Hollins is back, then there's your Cooper replacement. And all right, I think, that's probably their receiver room. But now with Hollins not being here, I'm not sure that I feel that way. Because now you're asking, I think, Palmer to effectively replace 2 guys two veteran guys you lost on your team, or you're saying Coleman has to step up, and maybe Kincaid should be mixed into this, even though he's not a wide receiver. But productivity-wise, again, like if he leads your team in receptions and the number is in the 80s, okay, then I can start to see it a little bit. But that also feels speculative in a certain way. They were similar in voicing public displeasure with Kincaid about really his body, I guess. Like he needs to get heavier and be more durable or stuff like that. That's two key cogs that if, like Cameron Wolf is correct, they're all set, then you're banking on two things that went kind of the wrong way for you, and you've said as much publicly. That would be kind of stunning for a team that is the level of contender status the Bills are, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an uneasy feeling if you're, sort of assuming, it's not really the word. You need Coleman and Kincaid in his way to step it up. And they're just the best, I think maybe the best you can do for expecting that is like their prospect pedigree. Like both were nice prospects, first round pick, then Coleman first pick of the second round. But there just has not been enough yet for either guy for me to want to assume it. Did you know how many rookies last year? I don't mean this to be unfair toward Coleman. Like it's rare when this happens at all. But he had 29 catches. Do you know that 4 rookies last year finished in the top 10 in receiving yards in the league?
I did not know that, no.
Does that kind of shock you?
Yes. Yes. You're going to start listing the guys, and I'm going to go, okay, well, Neighbors, of course, had a monster year with horrible quarterback play. Holy cow, what a year he had, considering what he was dealing with there.
5th in catches, 7th in yards for the Giants.
I bet McConkey's on that list with the catches he had for the Chargers.
1149, 10th in yards.
I don't have the other names at the tip of my tongue here.
Brian Thomas,
of course, right,
was 3rd in the league in receiving yards for Jacksonville with what at quarterback? And then Bowers.
Oh, okay. One tight end in the mix here. All right.
8th in yards, 3rd in catches. Man, McConkey had Herbert. The other 3, it's so counterintuitive. I mean, well, the Bills had the blueprint, lots of different guys involved. Okay. And these are first-round picks, even high first-round picks, and McConkey on losing teams, except, Chargers a little bit of an exception. He really did stand out. But Bowers, Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., on bad teams where they're really like all the offense for their teams, and they were not denied. That's what you want. If that's not fair to Coleman because it's too high a standard, okay. I mean, he had the MVP quarterback and he had caught 29 passes. So that's got to go way up. That's just got to go way up. 4 out of the top 10 players in the league last year in receiving yards were rookies. It's a pretty big drop after that. I don't know who would have been 5th. I could look. 803-0550 is the number. Here's Matt with us. Hello, Matt.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Real good, thanks.
Just want to say I do like the Palmer signing. I don't think they're done by any means, but I think he's a good player. Every time I watch the Chargers games, he was always making plays with them. He gets a lot of separation. I think he was top 10 in route win percentage last year. All his routes look the same, so whether he's running like a go or like a comeback or like a, out or an in, they all look the same. So that helps them with that. But I do think they're still going to add something in the draft. Maybe second-round picks. They have 2 of them this year. Maybe even the first round if the right player is there for him. But yeah, I definitely don't think. Would they have enough to still be one of the best offenses in the league? Yeah, probably. But I mean, it doesn't matter that what they do in the regular season. It matters what they're going to do in the playoffs. And if they're not going to be able to fix the defense to stop Kansas City, then they're going to need more firepower on offense to just outscore them.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I mean, it's a little much to say whenever you watch the Chargers, he was making plays. That's what you'd say about McConkey. But the guy caught more than 4 passes once. It's like saying the same thing about, Coleman or Hollins or somebody. It's really, there's not a lot there.
Yeah,
you can like the player.
Yep.
Everybody's buying into the idea that he's a fit for the Bills. Great. Not everybody is going to love the money, but you know how it is with the money. So okay, but it's not. He's not been.
I don't see anything other than hope that should lead you to the Bills found their number one receiver yesterday by signing Josh Palmer. I like the fit. I like the skill set. I like, where he should fit in on a team that should be good at throwing the ball. But it would absolutely stun me. Could it happen? Sure. Bigger role. I don't know. Maybe he hits it off with Allen and the whole thing just goes and it all works. But I can't. I would not bet on him being their leading receiver right now, sitting here today. So, you've still got Shakir here, and that's who I would bet on for that. Even with Kincaid hopefully rebounding and being healthier, I think Shakir will stay at the level he's at. Maybe you can hope for a little more there. I don't know. Certainly you'd like to hope for more touchdowns, but again, there's hope. What have I got that I can really bank on? I don't know. Like Palmer's career is I think he's getting the right amount of credit for the things that he's been good at and the fit that he represents. But I think you're reaching, in my view, if you think he's suddenly going to show up here and catch 90 passes or something. I just don't. He's never been that guy in the league yet. So
I think 50's good.
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, after Shakir, their number 2 wide receiver last year caught 31, less than 2 a game. Samuel was tied for the second most catches on the Bills as a wide receiver. I'm not giving Kincaid wide receiver status on this one. I do that only when it's convenient for my argument. Then I'll do it. Yeah. I will do it sometime, but not this time. When it comes to rookie tight ends and how amazing is, wide receiver, he really was a wide receiver, so who am I supposed to compare him with? This time, I'm not going to do that. 803-0550 is the number. I've got another mock draft for you. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Chris Trapasso joins us for his latest assessment, and he promised us, not really, last week that he would do it early on Wednesday so we could see a new name to talk about with him tomorrow afternoon. There's a Sabres game tomorrow night in Detroit. We should talk about the Dahlin thing a little bit. Haven't really done much of that yet. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
More of Schopp and the Bulldog coming up, live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Best results? Happy clients. Call Jed now at 839-3939 or calljed.com.
Welcome back. You want to do Dahlin here or 6? Which is like, how much time do you need?
Well, I mean, I could start here, and if it ends, then we do whatever we want at 6 or keep going. A variety of things. First of all, I would die in here if at some point tomorrow night on the TNT pregame show, which the person who started this whole thing, Paul Bissonnette, is a member of that show on TNT, and it's a TNT game. It would absolutely blow my mind if they don't spend 5 minutes with Kevin Adams tomorrow on that show.
If they don't.
It would blow my mind if they don't. I think he absolutely is a lock to be on that show for a few minutes just to sort of air it out, hash it out. Like I've talked to Rasmus. He's whatever extent they feel they need to put the fire out, enough that like 2 minutes after Dahlin denied it, like there's the Saber social media to make sure that he's happy here. Like, holy cow. Just let it pass. We'll deal with it out here. Like you don't need to like dive in there with that at this point, but whatever. I just think Adams, they'll feel like they want to get Adams on there. I'd love the idea of Dahlin, on the bench there during warm-ups talking to them, but I can't imagine that happening. With how Dahlin handled the queries about what Bissonnette said on a podcast today.
Which was that he flatly denied saying anything.
Yes. And to me, like I know, who really knows? I don't know. And I don't know what Bissonnette was told or by whom, obviously. But Dahlin, the way that whole thing went, like even the sound clips, it's one of these things that if you really want to weigh in on it and be informed, I would like watch the whole transaction, because he's asked about it and it has to be clarified to him that the person asking the question, I think it's Matt Bove from Channel 7, and the It's Always Game Day podcast in Buffalo with Sal, says he's talking about you. Like Dahlin doesn't know for sure. He needs it to be clarified by the person asking the question. Like, who's he talking about that wants out? You. Like, oh, that to me is not a put on whatsoever. Like it looks very honest to me, and like surprise. Like Dahlin's. No, that's not, it doesn't look like a rehearsed denial. Like, this is coming. I got to be ready to answer these questions, that kind of thing. It looked genuine to me. So, we'll see where that ends up. But I can't imagine Dahlin being interviewed by Paul Bissonnette after that. But I think Adams, again, I think he'll put some time in trying to put the fire out and quash it. And, I don't know what Biz will do, if he'll push back on it or if it'll be awkward or what, but just book it. I can't believe Kevin Adams won't be on that show tomorrow at some point. I don't even know how long that show might be. An hour.
Do they normally have managers on?
Well, they certainly, yes. I've seen Steve Yzerman on that show. I've seen lots of people on that show. Okay. So, I would think that they would make that happen tomorrow. Okay. As for the like the big picture, I think it's tricky because I think you want Dahlin to be mad, right? I love the Sabres. I love hockey. I want them to be good. I believe he does too. So yeah, we're mad. I want him to be mad, because what's it say if he's not? Like, if he's not fed up with all the losing, what are you? You're collecting a check and you're just sort of hanging out. So I'd want him to be pushing. I don't want him to leave. I don't want him to put the Sabres in a position where they have to do something with him because he's an excellent player. But he should absolutely be pushing back at anyone that matters over there, because he's great. And sure, he's not perfect. He's taken some dopey penalties and he's done some stuff in games this year that has hurt the team. But on balance, I mean, oh my gosh.
He's elite.
He is fantastic. So I want him to be mad, but I don't want him to ever leave. And that's where it gets dicey, Like, it's entirely believable that he could have said he wants to leave, but I believe his denial today.
There's a lot of room in the middle. If it's... There was an if come on the report. If things don't change quickly,
right?
Then, so the player can say, "I didn't say I wanted out," because that's not even what's being reported exactly. I want action, and I want him to feel that way too. We've talked about him a lot lately, and I kind of went into this last week at one point. Imagine being him. How would you feel? One guy called up and talked about how amazing he was, better than Makar. Remember that?
Yeah.
And, okay, slow down. But a guy that level of athlete and competitor in this situation, how could he not just be whatever this expression is, just like fed up, you might have said. How could he not be? You want him to be. And then what happens, though? Is Terry Pegula going to start suddenly spending to the cap? No, right? I mean, he could. That's what it's going to take. It's not losing as much as it is commitment, probably. We are losing because, in part at least, of a lack of commitment from the organization. And, then a guy like Dahlin, just like with Jack, can go, why am I here? A guy on that level plays for legacy, plays for the Hall of Fame, plays for cups. This guy is that good. And if he spends 15 years just sort of floundering around for the Sabres, who cares? What's that worth? It's a lot of money, but it's not worth anything in terms of his, legacy as a player. He's in his 8th year, right?
I was just going to say, how many years into it are we?
7 or 8.
It's the 18 draft, right?
7 or 8. He's 24.
Holy cow.
But still, he's been here a long time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't blame him for any of what's being alleged. I wouldn't blame him for any of it. Let's go. And if it puts the Sabres in a bind, well, we've been there before. That's happened before. What's new? 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
On the conversation, call, tweet, or text Schopp and the Bulldog this afternoon, 3 to 7 p.m. on WGR Sports Radio 550. The radio home of the Buffalo Sabres. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Buffalo Sabres return to practice today following yesterday's win over the Oilers. Jason Zucker, JJ Peterka both did not practice. Zucker was due to maintenance. Peterka, though, is dealing with a lower body issue. His status for tomorrow night is unclear. However, the main headline from today's practice came from Paul Bissonnette of Spit and Chicklets podcast, saying he's heard that Sabres captain Rasmus Dahlin spoke with general manager Kevin Adams and had indicated that if things do not change soon in Buffalo, Dahlin will want out. When asked about the comments following practice, Dahlin squashed the rumors.
That bugs me, actually. I get pissed off by that. I haven't even mentioned the word leave, so yeah, that's just how it is.
Sabres are in action tomorrow night in Detroit. It will be a 7:30 puck drop. Over to the Bills. If you missed it today, Darrington Evans, his agency, Priority Sports, announced the running back had signed with the Bills, though the term of the deal has not yet been reported. And then yesterday, defensive lineman Michael Hoecht signed with the team a 3-year deal worth $24 million. Some other deals from today: safety Justin Reed with New Orleans, 3-year, $31.5 million, 22.5 of that is guaranteed. Quarterback Daniel Jones lands in Indianapolis on a 1-year, $14 million contract. And Leonard Floyd, the former Buffalo Bills pass rusher, is signing with Atlanta on a 1-year, $10 million deal. Floyd spent last year with San Francisco and was released just earlier today. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of business. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
It's nothing you did.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's you, but you didn't cross me.
And the Bulldog.
Why did I choose? Why did I just stay in school?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
What's the answer to that, actually? Or was it just something to say?
I'm sorry. The
Why didn't you just stay in school?
Drugs. No. It was too hard. It was too hard. I was lazy. I think that's
because that was something real.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
You landed on your feet.
I couldn't be happier with how it all.
I can't wait.
Hold on. I could be happier, but
we all could be happier.
Yeah, but I'm satisfied.
I can't wait to have a conversation about that with you someday. Whether you like your job, not a conversation we've ever had. We were talking about the Dahlin report a few minutes ago. You heard Dahlin there say, "Yeah, no." I do again want to say that I think there's some room in the middle here between like a threat, which is kind of what that is made to sound like, and here's Dahlin saying, "I didn't even use the word leave." You know, is he talking to people in the organization or even teammates? That comes from somewhere. I don't know this guy or care about him at all, Bissonnette, but that it's just not the kind of thing you do from nowhere, you know? Right. So I don't know. I don't want to assume it's true or false or anything, but, you know, those things, you know how it happens sometimes. Somebody hears a thing and then maybe doesn't know the best way to articulate it, and it gets to be something else, and then now the player's like, what?
Yeah. It's not like I did watch the clip from the podcast that is set this all off because I thought I want to see exactly what was said, right? And he just used he said he's gonzo if things don't get better.
Oh, I love gonzo.
He'd be gonzo, and so I don't know. It's not, like he's got a quote, right? It's being aggregated into Dahlin says he will leave if the team doesn't improve and the GM doesn't do enough things to make him believe the team is going to improve. And I don't know. Wouldn't you assume, like if you and I were, you have brought it up. I don't even know, going back even into last year. And I have almost curled up in a ball. Like emotionally, not actually physically on the floor in a ball when you bring it up, but like emotionally, I don't even want to look at it.
Trading him.
Him getting to the point where he does hold their feet to the fire. And it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't even want to contemplate that reality ever being the case, because it's just so much of that is our lives as Sabres fans has been stuff like that. Going back
how
over
far
their
do you want to
history.
go back? 30 years?
It's all there. So, and that's a lot of different managers and 3 different owners, or 4 even, like whatever.
McGillney.
It's a lot of people.
How about?
Right. So when it comes up, I think, oh God, no. But of course, is it realistic? Is it something that you would ponder as a fan? I mean, I think we rush to it here because of the history, but that's what makes it plausible to me. Again, I believe Dahlin's denial. He sounded genuinely, to me, surprised that he was being accused of having said something like that when he was confronted with it today after practice. I don't have to be right about any of that, but that's my read sitting here today. But is it not using the word leave? What are you talking about? And what sort of idea? What do you leave your GM with after you have that conversation? That you're going to be fine if another few years go by and nothing changes? Of course not. And nor should Adams settle for that. Like, you just the whole thing. It's entirely believable that you could end up there. And I don't know. I just don't know that today signifies like the starting gate of that process really at all. But it could. At some point, a guy like him, Dahlin, could get bothered enough by what's going on here and the inaction and the organization's reputation within the league and all of it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be 30 one day. Like, what are we doing?
Imagine turning 30.
Yeah, I know.
What's that like?
Being worried about it.
Oh. My shoulder hurts just thinking about it. Oh, my back. I'm 30. Gonzo, top 10 Muppet?
Oh, I'm not ready to go on a power ranking of Muppets.
Power rank Muppets.
I know that we looked very much forward to Gonzo's appearances. I know that.
Yeah, Gonzo was a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I
would say generally. I don't know my Muppets that well.
Was it? Okay. Well, I'm going to show just how ill prepared I am for this conversation, but never stopped us before. Is he the one that set off the bombs all the time?
He was blue.
I think there were he'd show up and there'd be something going on, and then he'd pop up in the front of the screen, hit and take up some of the screen, and then press the detonator, and the bomb would go off. I think that's Gonzo. I mean, he was awesome. He just blew blank up. Right? I think that was him.
That's maybe a case for a top 10.
Yes, it is. I'm talking myself into it.
Known for his eccentric passion for stunt performance, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's got to be him. Yeah.
He has been considered to be of various origins.
I mean, the Swedish Chef has to be up there.
The Swedish Chef. When I was little, and I know this only because my parents would have told me this. This is back before I'd remember being alive. Watching Sesame Street, right? That's where this would be. Don Music was my guy. Look up Don Music, if you would. He would be somebody that you'd be like, if I want Don Music in this Muppet draft, I'd better get him now. Because I'm next. And if I got sniped on Don Music, I'd be unhappy. I might have to complain to my GM or something. I'd be just, what happened? Don Music's thing was, he was a concert pianist.
Okay.
And he would start to play a song, and he would make a mistake, and then just slam his hands and his head on the keys. I'll never get it. I'll never get it. I'll never get it.
That sounds
something
familiar.
Like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember this.
Yeah.
But I remember, talking about it.
Yep.
Is all. So Don Music. I mean, Miss Piggy, Kermit, Fozzie. What is Fozzie Bear's role in any of this?
I appreciate all the big stars, but I'm more the dude that's going to show up with the long snapper jersey when it comes to the Muppets, like Beaker.
Oh, Beaker.
Beaker. I'm a big Beaker guy. Big Beaker guy. I really mostly just wanted to say big Beaker guy. But I did really like Beaker.
Remember that guy, Bulldog? He was on the radio for 48 years talking about the Bills all the time.
Big Beaker guy.
And his guitars and his motorcycles and his beer. You know what people don't remember about him? Big Beaker guy.
Well, I'm going to have that to take home with me tonight. That's I'll have that.
Remember that guy who used to talk about the Bills?
How was your day? Well,
he had a nickname.
I got to mention Beaker.
He was kind of like funny and loud and passionate. He was like a Buffalo guy all the way. And he had an attic. Big Beaker guy. That guy was. Not many people remember that.
I'm just springing that on my adoring public. So I mean, if you it's new. It's a lot to take in.
Remember that guy who wrapped his bananas as I knock over my water? I'm so excited about this bit. I'm knocking over drinks. Should I worry about the fact that there's wires everywhere?
I don't know. Maybe. No, I don't think there's anything.
Tissues.
Oh, the tissues.
Is this a good use of tissues? Tissues are hard to come by.
Tissues will do the trick there.
If you use anything but tissues to blow your nose around here, your nose bleeds because they're so scratchy and like cheap. So somebody's going to be unhappy that the tissues have been. I should bring new tissues in.
Hey, G, how's this look on the stream? How are the kids? How are the kids on the Twitch reacting to this?
That was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Remember the guy who wrapped his bananas? Remember that guy?
Big Beaker guy.
Big Beaker guy. John is next.
Okay,
John, go ahead.
Oh, you guys. How am I supposed to get my train of thought together when we're talking about Beaker?
That's up to you, man.
Do what you can, buddy.
That's your role in this.
You called us.
You called us.
Remember that.
You just threw me all off with it.
That's true.
But anyways, with Eichel, right? He wanted to win, but they wouldn't let him get the surgery he wanted.
He wanted to leave.
That was the problem. And I still think that's part of the problem of them recruiting people to come here. You really want to come to a organization that won't let you get surgeries that you want?
I mean, I just think that was kind of a front. But it did happen. I just don't think that that's ultimately it. I think he wanted to leave because the same reason everybody else does in this franchise.
The surgery provided a convenient way for him to do it and have the Sabres take more of the heat, all of the heat, some of the heat, whatever. However, he shouldn't be blameless in the situation. But, yeah, I agree with that. But overall, aside from, whether it was a mechanism that would – I'm doing this with a box of tissues in my left hand and tissues to mop up the rest of the water when I'm done because this point is so urgent it needs to be made right now. Water be damned.
Here, pass them to me. I talk last. I'll clean up. It's my mess.
I think he wanted to leave, but ultimately them drawing the line in the sand that they did over the surgery does not help them in their standing within the league. You don't look friendly to players if you're not going to allow them to get things done that they want done for their health. And as it turns out, Eichel has continued to be one of the best players in the league. He's not on the McKinnon-McDavid level, but he's an excellent two-way player now and has won a cup. And the Sabres picked a fight with him, or he picked a fight with them, whichever way you want to look at it. It doesn't really matter who picked the fight. The organization looks like the bad guy. And that does not help you with your palm trees and your taxes. That's a negative on the organization ultimately. So, whether or not it was, it's not quite semantics. Whether that got created to help him find a way out of town or whatever. I believe he ended up having the surgery, so it was a real injury and a real surgery. It does not do anything but hurt the Sabres. That they went to the mattresses on not wanting him to have that surgery, and ultimately it turned out to be successful, and they don't look good. Like if some player, you want to find a reason to waive your no move clause, And, you've got all the other stuff working against you that is geographic and climate and winning and all that. You better have the best relationship with the players. Like, that's how you that's your edge, is you got to do all that stuff right. And, I mean, big miss, need I say.
That has not been the same since 2006. The Sabres had, for them, a rare moment in 2006 when that really did feel like a team that just loved their lives playing here. Remember talking to Dumont after he left? Briere, of course, every time. Yeah. But talking to some of those guys, Marty, of course, and Campbell, like, they all talked about how happy they were. And, being good. It's hard to be that happy if you're not good, but that team got good. It was organic. And that was a rare moment for the Sabres. Yeah. By the way, I'm not saying 2007. I'm saying 2006. Dumont was off the team after 2006. Marty was traded eventually, and it was different the next year.
Yeah, Dumont was like the first big guy from that team. I mean, he obviously wasn't as big as Drury or Briere, but yeah, that was an arbitration that they, I think, walked away from and let him become a free agent, and that was that. And I don't know. I don't want to speak for the guy. I don't know him that well, but he struck me as brokenhearted.
Yeah, I would say that. I would say that.
So,
but am I saying you have to keep everybody when you can't? But the Sabres just were cold, and they missed it. And by the next year, I mean, it's Drury at the press conference after they lost with blood pouring out of his mouth, and we weren't tough enough. Words to that effect. And he left, and they've not really been anything like that since, and that's almost 20 years ago. Like, their history since and before, actually, is marked by controversy and these mysterious situations with players, and even the caller, no, that's not really it with Eichel. Well, I think it is. And, there's both, and you don't really know. That was Pat LaFontaine twice as a player and as an executive. That was quintessentially Hasek, the best goalie of all time. You had the best goalie of all time, and you were in the playoffs every year. No, I'm out. That's not Terry Pegula's fault, but no, that's the history of the Sabres. That's more than anything else. It's great players growing old with it, just I'm better than this. They don't have to be right, but like you're saying on the Eichel thing, what matters is how do you get them back, or how do you prevent that? And if a player, Hasek was not always easy to manage.
No, even in the throes of his MVP seasons, there was a lot of controversy about him.
Guess what he did, though?
He won a lot.
He stopped the puck like nobody else ever has.
Right.
Even since. It probably feels like to those guys, anybody associated with it, that they get blamed for all of it. I don't mean that. None of the guys there now have any responsibility in what happened to Alexander McGillney. Oh, he's afraid to fly? Is that what happened? Is that for real? Sabres fans forever. Martin. I was too young, but what was that? He was going to sue him? Did he sue him? Does that happen on all teams? Do my best players leave and they're what else? What can you say? What can you say? So PFF's mock draft today. Ready?
Sure.
Get to know your newest Bill, and he's not a new name for us, Walter Nolan. That was my Oprah voice. No, that was my Maya Rudolph's Oprah voice, actually. Walter Nolan.
Defensive tackle, Mississippi.
Pick 30.
All right.
One pick after Nick Emenwari goes to Washington, according to PFF. He does not have to be a top 15 pick. That guy. Positional needs, and for as freakish as he was athletically at the Combine, I don't think you have to give up that dream. Maybe the Bills don't want him because they're going to draft D-line.
Sure.
Want him, but can't have him. Can't do it. Can't afford it.
I would be gripped if the draft unfolded that way and it got to pick 29 and that dude was still there and then went.
Yeah. For me, this was Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State, Emeka Egbuka. That guy who used to spill water and couldn't say Emeka Egbuka. He was a big beaker guy. No, that was the other guy.
Yeah, that was the other guy.
The other guy was a big beaker guy. Big move from Miami. The Dolphins have signed Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. 2 years, 6.5. So scratch him off your want list. He made plays for the Titans. He's like, well, I can't say he's like Palmer, but he's somebody that you'd never start in fantasy. Once in a while he scores and you're upset because you never would have expected it. I mean, Palmer had 1 touchdown last year for the Chargers, playing every week, or just about. So Nick Westbrook-Ikhine to Miami. That's what so meant. Sal joined us earlier. So too Joe Reedy from the AP. If you missed that, you want to hear more about Palmer from a reporter who was with the Chargers, that's on the Odyssey app, on demand. Sal was with us earlier as well. We'll have that conversation for you next on the Bills' latest signings and how it all adds up. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Never miss